All right, we're going to get started. We'll call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Evening.
Ed McGargy, a voting member. Kate Meehan, who's our solicitor this evening, and Jesse Poynton, a voting member.
Evening.
We also have Jonathan Mount, our zoning officer, with us. Before we begin, Jess, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
We have two continued and one new case this evening. Our first case, the continued case, is Z24-28, Blackwater Falls Trust, Robert E. Brotzman III, trustee, owner of 2400 Darby Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2203-006900, who seeks a variance from the provisions of section 182-404B to permit the development and operation of a gas service station, 4 pumping stations, and a 2,200 square foot convenience store. Property is zoned C3 and located in the 3rd Ward. Mr. Cottabell. Glad to see you. Looking healthy?
Evening, Mr. Chairman. Yes, my pulmonologist saw me today, and I'm cleared to be here tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here in person, as well as the board's indulgence in having my client's trustee, Mr. Brotzman, participate in Zoom, given his location in Florida. For purposes of the record, I would also request that the record reflect that at the first zoning hearing, I also requested that the application reflect an amendment that the proposed use may constitute a vehicle refueling facility added to the township's zoning definitions by Ordinance 2604 in 2010, insofar as it would be refueling vehicles with the 4 pumps that you had mentioned, but there will be no painting or servicing of vehicles. With that, I would like to call to the witness stand or podium my client's traffic engineer, Mr. DiMartino.
And Lou, just so we're clear, where did we leave off with respect to Robert?
It's my
Mr. Bratz.
understanding in speaking with your colleague, Mr. Angelos, and Mr. Donahue, the counsel for some of the protestants, that we would have Mr. DiMartino present his traffic report study, and then for direct examination, and then cross-examination. And then I also brought our civil engineer, Mr. Citrullo, for any cross-examination from the persons other than represented by Mr. Donahue. And then if Mr. Donahue wants the opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Brotzman, I think that's where we left off.
At the end, or
That's fine.
Robert, would you rather do it first?
Either way is fine with me, Mr. King.
I think that's where we left off,
It is
that you
where
were
we
going to
left off.
pick up and do your cross-examination of Mr. Brotzman
Okay.
and then proceed.
So can we start with Mr. Our traffic engineer? I'd like to get him on the.
If you're okay with it,
I'm fine with it. I'm
Okay.
here either way.
then that's what we'll do. How are you? Thank you, Lou. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board?
Yes, Guy DiMartino, traffic engineer with Traffic Planning and Design, Inc.
Good evening, Mr. DiMartino. What is your profession as a traffic engineer? Are you licensed in Pennsylvania?
I am. I'm a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Okay, and what I'm showing to the board is Exhibit H is the resume or CV of your qualifications and project experience. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you been qualified as an expert traffic engineer in Haverford Township at various times, as well as the municipalities listed in your resume?
Yes, I have.
Okay. In your professional experience, have you had occasion to design or evaluate traffic and transportation related effects as to the development and operation of proposed gas stations and convenience stores?
Yes.
And what factors do you consider in designing or evaluating such facilities?
Yes, sure. When we're evaluating facilities, like is proposed before you this evening, we look at site access, traffic volumes on the adjacent roadways, trip generation of the given use, township ordinances, PennDOT criteria if PennDOT would be involved. In this case, PennDOT would be involved with this application.
Okay. And have you had prior occasions for other clients in which you testified as to variances or other relief that might be needed to achieve those results?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And has your firm, Traffic Planning and Design, been engaged to evaluate the subject property at 2400 Darby Road in the township and prepare a traffic evaluation report in connection with the application filed by Blackwater Falls Trust, the owner that is before the board this evening?
Yes.
And you have personally been involved in that evaluation process as project manager?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that the board qualify Mr. DiMartino as an expert licensed traffic engineer in Pennsylvania.
All right, any discussion from any of the board members? All right, we'll accept him as an expert. He's been here before.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DiMartino, you were present at the first zoning hearing for this application where I presented the opening statements on behalf of the applicant. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And you have received a copy of the application that is the subject of tonight's hearing and the earlier hearings?
Yes.
Okay. And you relied upon that information in the application in preparing the report that's been submitted, the traffic report?
Yes.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, did my opening remarks reflect what the contents of the application that's before the board?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. There is a traffic evaluation report dated June 14, 2024 that was submitted with the applicant's application for variances, and that was the report prepared by TPD. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And for the record, I believe that is part of the application for variances included documents. And you've had the opportunity to review the variance sought in the application.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You had the opportunity to evaluate the variances sought. You know what they are?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Can you describe the subject property that's the subject of the report?
Sure. So, as we all are aware, the subject property is situated at 2400 West Darby Road, on the corner of Darby Road and Eagle Road. The site, as everybody knows, is currently vacant. It did operate as a gas station for a number of years prior to it being vacant. And actually, between the time that it operated at a gas station and its current vacancy, there was a number of applications for that, for the development of this site, one of which was a bank with a drive-through. The bank was 2,837 square feet. It's my understanding that application for the bank went through the township land development approval process, was approved, and also went through the PennDOT permitting process and was approved by PennDOT. The subject site before you this evening is for a gas station with a convenience store. The gas station will have 4 pumps, and with those 4 pumps, we refer to it as 8 vehicle fueling positions because you can fuel on each side of the 4 pumps. The convenience store would be 2,200 square feet.
Okay. And included in the application, I'm holding in my hands Exhibit A, Google Earth photo of the subject premises. Is that correct?
Yes,
Exhibit B is it's parcel map in which the corner of Darby and Eagle Road are delineated in red.
yes,
And you've also seen and reviewed the plan prepared by Bowler, which is Exhibit E, labeled Site Plan for Blackwater Falls Trust.
that's correct.
Okay. And the 4 pumps are shown with the island, and the convenience store is to the left. Is that correct?
Yes, that's on Exhibit A.
Okay.
Louis, while you're at it, what is G, Exhibit G? Nice resume or CV was Exhibit H, but what's G? Is it to be identified later?
It's Mr. Citrullo's resume.
Okay.
Board asked, I think at the September meeting, for both gentlemen's resumes, and this is the first opportunity to bring
I
their.
just wanted to make sure I didn't miss
No,
whatever was G.
no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Mr. DiMartino, please explain how TPD used the trip generation manual in preparing the traffic evaluation submitted on behalf of the applicant. Perhaps if you start just by explaining the concept of the trip generation manual and then leading into your answer of that, how it was applied.
Certainly. So the industry standard that we traffic engineers utilize for determining trip generation for specific uses based on the size and the use of a certain development is based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, or in short, the ITE Trip Generation Manual. And that manual is a compilation of data for various land uses. In this case, we reviewed the data specifically for the previously approved bank with drive-through and for the current application of the gas station with 4 pumps. Looking at that data within the manual, we determined that trip generation for the 2 uses during the weekday morning commuter peak hour, during the weekday evening commuter peak hour, and then during the Saturday midday peak hour.
And can you please explain what table, excuse me, table 2, the trip generation summary represents?
Sure. So walking through the data that I just outlined from the IT Trip Generation Manual, we determined that the total trips for each given use for the approved bank, for the previously approved bank, and for the proposed gas station with convenience store. The trip generation data and manual provides total trips, and then those total trips are then further broken down into what's referred to as pass-by trips and new trips. Pass-by trips, well, actually, I'll start with new trips. New trips are what are referred to as destination trips. So think of it as you're leaving your house for the sole purposes of visiting the site. You're going to go get gas from your house, you go get gas, and you go back to your house, and it's a new trip to the area. Pass-by trips are just as it sounds. It's traffic that is already on the roadway. In this case, would already be on Eagle Road or Darby Road, traveling past the site. And that traffic is traveling past the site, whether the site's vacant, whether it's a bank, whether it's a gas station or any other use. That site's already on the road. But what the pass-by trip is doing is you're choosing to visit that site. In this case, you would choose to visit a gas station on your way to, say, to work. You're traveling to work, you're passing by the site, you're turning in, getting gas, and then you're turning out of the site and continuing on your way. So the total trips for both the bank and the gas station were broken into pass-by trips and new trips. So looking at table 2 during the weekday AM peak hour, you can see that the total trips for the previously approved bank is 28 trips during the weekday AM peak hour. That gets broken down further to pass-by trips and new trips. Likewise, the proposed gas station during the weekday AM peak hour would generate a total of 128 total trips. Again, breaking that down by pass-by trips and new trips. And just focusing on the new trips between those two uses within the AM peak hour results in an increase with this application relative to the previously approved bank of 31 trips during the weekday AM peak hour. I won't go through that whole dialogue for the weekday PM and Saturday peak hours, but just to summarize, during the weekday PM peak hour, that same comparison results in an increase of 26 new trips with this proposed application when compared to the previously approved application. And likewise, during the Saturday midday peak hour, it's a net increase of 27 new trips. So in total, depending on those various 3 peak hours, they all range around 30 new trips, or to put it a different way, it's about 1 new trip every 2 minutes during the given peak hour.
And table 1 was, as it's indicated and labeled in table 1, was based on land use code 912 for the previously approved drive-in bank, combined with land use code 945 for the convenience store and gas station.
That's correct.
Okay. From a transportation engineering perspective, does the applicant need to seek variances as to the proposed use, the proposed uses under the ordinance necessary for the property owner to obtain for the proposed vehicle fueling station and convenience store uses?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified you looked into the prior use of this parcel, which is now vacant, but was used for many years as a gas station.
That's correct.
Okay. And this property is located at Darby and Eagle Road. Is it site constrained at being at the intersection of 2 state highways?
Yeah, I'll say from a land standpoint, it is constrained certainly by Darby Road and Eagle Road, and then to the west, the Nudi's restaurant, and then to the north is the existing alley that abuts the property.
And the applicant, should the zoning hearing board grant the relief requested, would still need to go through Haverford Township's subdivision and land development ordinance requirements and PennDOT highway occupancy permit requirements for land development for the fueling station and the convenience store. Is that correct?
Yes, and specifically for PennDOT, related to any modifications within PennDOT's right-of-way.
And is it your understanding the applicant is not proposing access via the shared driveway in the rear?
Correct, they are not.
And the application reflects its desire to reduce the driveways from the prior use for driveways to a single ingress/egress as to Eagle and single ingress/egress as to Darby.
Correct, and just for clarification, prior use being the gas station, it's certainly vacant today, with the prior use had 2 access points to Eagle Road, 2 access points to Darby Road, as well as a connection to the alley. So as you noted, it's anticipated we would reduce those access points, likely to 1 access point to Eagle Road, 1 access point to Darby Road, and that would all have to be coordinated with PennDOT through the approval process.
Would reducing the access points as you just testified to be better from a traffic engineering and or safety perspective compared to multiple access points?
Yes, from that perspective, and also from the perspective that what I'll refer to as the 4 existing access points, they were uncontrolled, meaning they were all allowed for full movement. Certainly the traffic on the roadways restricted the ability to have full movement at those driveways during certain times of the day, but these access points we envision would have some restrictions to them, whether they be right in, right out, or restrict left turn movements permanently or at specific hours of the day. But all of that would have to be coordinated with PennDOT through the HOP process.
Yes, and that would also involve a transportation impact study and the HOP process for the permits.
Correct, and as part of that formal transportation impact study, we'd have to do, as it sounds, a more detailed traffic analysis where we're required to mitigate the impact of this given application, and by doing that, the mitigation could result in roadway improvements or traffic signal improvements to provide that mitigation.
And given that the adjacent Nudi's Cafe is relatively recent, one of the things that your firm would be looking at if it was engaged to do that formal process would be any traffic studies that the Nudi's applicant had done through their land development process.
Yes, if such studies are available, we would certainly review them.
That's all the questions I have for Mr. DiMartino at this time.
Okay. Robert?
Mr. DiMartino, have you been to the site?
I have.
And while you're at the site, did you perform any traffic counts?
For this given application, no, we did not.
Okay. And you mentioned that you used the trip generation manual to come up with your numbers.
That's correct.
Is that specific to Haverford Township?
It's specific to the requirements that a traffic engineer would be
That
held
wasn't
to.
my question. Is it specific to Haverford Township?
I'm not aware of Haverford Township having trip generation methodology within their zoning ordinance.
Is it specific to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
It is under the purview of PennDOT.
Is it a book that is used across the United States?
It is by transportation engineers within the United States, yes.
So the numbers here in Haverford Township would be the same numbers that would be used in Texas if they were looking at a convenience store and a gas station?
I can't speak to what Texas DOT would require. I can speak to what Pennsylvania DOT would require. And Pennsylvania DOT would require the use of the IT trip generation manual. And also the township traffic engineer, Pannoni Associates, would require that we utilize the trip generation manual because that is the industry standard which we are required to follow.
Would you agree that this is a very busy intersection during rush hour?
I would agree, yes.
And a car count would actually help you determine how busy, in fact, this intersection was, right?
Yes, as part of a traffic impact study, we would have to count the intersection and determine the volume of traffic traveling through this area.
And did your numbers include the convenience store use?
Yes.
Because you only mentioned gas station or gas refueling station when you were testifying.
Yeah, so ITE land use number 945 is a convenience store / gas station. So that data factors in both uses.
Your report indicates that you were using an independent variable. What is that?
Independent variable for the proposed application was 8 vehicle fueling positions.
Okay. And this property was never used as a convenience store, isn't that correct?
I know it certainly had a gas station. And I know there was a point of sales building within there. I do not know if they sold convenience items within that facility.
Did you review the zoning ordinance when you prepared this study? The Haverford Township?
I reviewed portions of it, yes.
And are you aware that a bank is a permitted use in this zoning district?
Yes,
And a gas refueling station is not a permitted use, is it?
correct. That's why we're here tonight.
And it's a use variance that you require, correct?
I believe so.
And it's, in fact, 2 use variances because the convenience store is not a permitted use either, correct?
I'm not an attorney. I'm not certain on that.
As a civil engineer planning the site, you wouldn't think it would be important to know if their use is permitted?
I'm reviewing the traffic related to the given use.
And you mentioned that there would be 2 access points with the proposed use. That isn't in any way limited specifically to the proposed use, correct? In other words, if this property was developed as an office building, there could also be a limit of having 2 access points.
Absolutely. Just as the bank was anticipating to have 2 access points.
And the bottom line of your report is that there are approximately 90 more vehicles per day generated than a permitted use under the zoning ordinance, which is a bank. Correct?
No. I don't want to, I never got into a daily basis. I said it was roughly 30 more trips during the AM peak hour, roughly 30 more net new trips during the PM peak hour. Those are 2 hours during the day. I never once said 90 new trips.
Okay, I'm sorry. So on a weekday, it would be approximately 60? Is that what you're saying?
I would actually, I'm going to surprise you with my answer, I actually think it would be more than 60. Because I'm focusing on two specific peak hours, which is the criteria when we actually perform traffic studies. We look at peak hours. Certainly during the course of the day, they'll say a period from another time of day, the gas station might generate more than a bank as well. But when we look at traffic, we focus on peak hours.
And how many hours are in peak hour?
It's
What specific period are you?
A peak hour is a 60-minute period of time.
So in 2 60-minute periods of time, you're saying there would be in the AM 31 new trips and 26 new trips in the PM.
Correct.
And there's no accounting of what other traffic might be generated by this site during the daytime.
Not in this document, no. But, and that would be standard for when we perform a traffic impact study. We would do the similar type thing.
You didn't compare the proposed use to any other permitted uses in a C3 zoning district, did you?
I compared it to a bank, which you previously said was a permitted
Right.
use.
Any other than
Any
than the
other?
bank?
No, I did not.
Are you aware of the other permitted uses in a C3 zoning district?
They were discussed at the prior hearing, but
Okay? So it's possible that some of those other uses may generate less trips than the proposed use.
I haven't evaluated them, so I don't want to speak in hypotheticals.
What about an office building? You know how many trips that would generate?
Depends on the size of the office building, depends on the uses of the medical office building. There's a lot of variables, so again, I can't speak to the hypothetical.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, hold on one second, guy. Where's Michael? Is Michael Kingston here tonight? No? And Julia? You have questions that you would like to ask? Wait, no, you stay there, guy. Julia will go over there.
Julia.
Brooks. Sorry,
I have a question about your report. Your trip generation summary says that previously approved use bank would be a total of 28 trips. The proposed use gas station / convenience store would be 128 trips during the peak hour. That's an additional 100,
Right.
correct?
Yes, you're,
And that's during a peak hour. Off-peak hours, what would you estimate the difference would be?
right. So first, let me explain that 100, what you stated is correct in terms of that, what's shown in that table, and those are the total trips. Those total trips they get split up into two classifications, pass-by trips and new
I
trips.
see that, and I heard your explanation earlier. I'm looking at the total figures.
Right, so of that 100, the difference, the 100 you referenced, of that 69 is pass-by trips. Those 69 trips are on the road today. They're on the road if it's a bank, they're on the road if it's a gas station, or some other hypothetical use.
Okay,
So that's
this
why
is-
I focused on the 31 new trips.
I get that, but I'm looking at your total figure here,
Okay,
right? It's an additional 100
total trips, correct.
total trips, and that's during peak hours. What would you estimate that the additional trips would be during off-peak hours?
We have not evaluated that.
Okay, and he's requesting that this property be available and open from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. If you're saying 100 additional trips during peak hour, he would be open from, what's that, 18 hours a day? 17 hours a day? 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., 17 hours a day. So you're talking about a huge amount of additional traffic.
Right,
based
and
on
we'd
this
have to,
report.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would have to look at the daily traffic associated with the given use when we go through the PennDOT process. And as part of that PennDOT process, it's an extensive process where the first step in that is to submit scoping application that gets vetted with PennDOT and with the township traffic engineer to see that the basis for our traffic study, which heavily relies on this trip generation information, is accepted. So that's one of the first things that they look at, all the criteria that go into a traffic study, and we set the parameters of a traffic study, and one of those parameters is the trip generation. So those sort of items that you're raising, they're valid questions and comments at this time, but they will be further evaluated should a variance be granted, and we advance this through that PennDOT process.
Well, from your experience in the work that you do, off-peak and peak, the difference would be what? Maybe, would it go down 50% for off-peak?
So each use is different. I'll say a rule of thumb is, and again, it's a rule of thumb, so, but generally the peak hour traffic is roughly about 10% of the daily traffic.
Okay, so you have 100 cars, 100 additional trips for one peak hour. And you're saying that's only 10% of the daily traffic?
Again, I'm trying to, we haven't formally evaluated, and it would be formally evaluated should this application, should the variance be granted and we get to land development and we get to the PennDOT process. So
Well, just vaguely speaking, based on what you're saying, if this is only 10% of the daily traffic, or 10% of what we could expect, you're talking probably 1,500 cars a day based on this formula. That's a lot.
and I'm struggling to see how you got 1,500, but we are required as we go through, should this variance be granted, and we would have to go through the land development process and the PennDOT process. As part of that process, when we do a traffic impact study, we have to mitigate the impact associated with this development. So that means we'll be required to do improvements so that we mitigate the site our impact. If we do not satisfy that criteria, which is PennDOT criteria and also township criteria, the application cannot be constructed. So we have to satisfy those standards that are held to us, are required as we go through the PennDOT process.
The location, you're expecting to have two entrance, or two ways of entering the property? Would you be able to exit in both directions from these entrances?
Exit, yes. So what the bank, the approved bank's plan had a right-in, right-out driveway to Darby Road, and then it had another driveway to Eagle Road, which restricted lefts out. You could make rights in, rights out, lefts in, but you could not make a left out. So again, the access for this application would have to be engineered, coordinated with PennDOT, coordinated with the township during the land development and PennDOT process, but we'd envision access similar to what I just outlined was approved for the bank.
Which would have 20% of the traffic that the gas station or gas station convenience store would have during peak hours. That's a big difference. I have no more questions.
Okay. Questions? Jess? Ed?
No question.
Jesse?
No question.
And neither do I. Thanks, Ed. Go ahead. Sure.
The witness. Mr. DiMartino, Donahue asked various questions about Pennsylvania specific or Haverford specific. Based on all your testimony at all these different projects in Pennsylvania and when working with PennDOT, is there any other trip generation manual that PennDOT has considered or a municipality has considered other than the trip generation manual that you've referred to?
There is not another manual.
And there's no Pennsylvania specific or Jersey specific or Delaware specific. There's just the one ITE trip generation manual.
That's correct.
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Robert? No other questions? Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I would like to present the missing Exhibit G, the resume of Mr. Citrullo, who previously testified on behalf of the applicant as its civil engineer.
He qualified at the last hearing when he testified.
I believe at this point, Mr. Citrullo is able to be cross-examined.
And you were sworn at the last hearing, and you're still under oath. And you're done. You were done with your direct, correct, Louis? You concluded your direct.
Yes, other than Mr. Citrullo, is this your true and correct professional resume that's been marked as and submitted as Exhibit G?
Yes.
Yes, so with that, I've concluded the direct.
Mr. Kane, I have already cross-examined this witness.
Okay. Julia, did you have any questions for Adam? Yes, sir. Yeah. Jess? Ed?
No.
Jesse?
No.
And neither do I. Is there anything else you would like to address with Adam?
No, I think Mr. Citrullo has already covered everything in the direct before, other than just submitting his resume.
Okay. You're good then. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, at this time, my client's trustee, Mr. Brotzman, is on Zoom. Bob, if you can hear me, can you nod and just confirm that by stating it?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Mr. Donahue graciously agreed with your solicitor, Mr. Angelo, not to have him cross-examined while I was out with my medical leave at the most recent hearing. And so Mr. Brockman is back this evening on Zoom for any cross-examination.
Thank you.
Yours.
Quickly. Mr. Brockman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. This lot, you would agree that vacant, there are no buildings on it?
I'm sorry, again, please.
The lot that is the subject of this petition is vacant with no buildings on it?
That's correct.
Would you also agree that it's relatively flat?
Yes.
And it's approximately 27,500 square feet?
I know it's roughly approximately 0.68 acres, whatever amount that would be.
And what would you describe the shape of this lot to be?
Pretty much.
How many acres did you say it was, Mr. Brockman?
I'm sorry?
Point six. Was that your answer?
6'8".
0.68.
But,
Okay.
but it's 0.63 to 0.68 acres.
All right, sorry.
And could you describe the shape of the lot?
Rectangular?
And would you agree that there's no unique physical characteristics of this lot?
According to the plot plan and our the lot itself, it does not say irregular. I do own properties in Haverford Township where it says irregular. It does not say so at this location.
There's nothing particular about this lot that would prevent it from being developed in conformance with the code, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned in your prior testimony that fast food restaurants were interested in this lot,
Yes.
and you didn't pursue that because you thought the township would be opposed to that. Is that right?
Correct.
You understand that a fast food restaurant is a use by right in a C3 district?
Yes, without a drive-through. There would be variance for the drive-through.
Well, you would need a special exception, which is different than a variance, correct?
I can't say that for sure. I don't want to say something that I don't know there.
And the prior use that was approved by this board for a bank was a permitted use in the district, correct?
As far as I'm aware, yes, it was.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Jessica? Ed?
No questions.
Jesse?
I have no questions.
Okay. You already asked questions of him, Julia? Yep, go ahead. No, Julia asked questions at the last hearing, so go ahead.
Now, Mr. Brotzman, when we were discussing the application and the need for variances, you recall I had discussed with you the fast food restaurant provisions of the zoning ordinance, and as you just stated a moment or two ago, the by right use for a fast food restaurant is without a drive-through. Is that your testimony?
That's correct.
And even though you didn't necessarily recall just now the form of zoning relief that would be necessary for a drive-through, whether it is for a special exception or any other type of zoning relief, that would be additional relief that you would have to seek from this board if a drive-through for the restaurant or the fast food restaurant was needed, correct?
That's correct.
You've developed other locations in Delaware County, in Chester County, and elsewhere that involve coffee or burgers or donuts or any other types of fast food. Is that correct?
Yes, Starbucks, Westchester Pike and Eagle Road. Obviously, the 2 gas stations I own, and then this property that I wish to redevelop into something very nice.
Based on your experience and your working with a broker and your prior history as a business person, do you think that there would be a viable use at this location for fast food that didn't have a drive-through?
Every fast food restaurant requires a drive-through. So without a drive-through, it eliminates all fast food options.
That's the end of my redirect.
Robert?
No, that's fine.
That's all the testimony I had for Mr. Bronzman then.
Okay, and Jessica, no questions still?
No questions.
Ed?
No question.
Jesse?
No questions.
Neither do I. Okay. You have anything else to add?
Chair, in deference to the board's patience to date, and I know you've got other hearings to deal with, I would simply commend the board to review the notes of testimony and the exhibits and grant the relief requested in lieu of a longer closing statement. Thank you.
Okay, and you want to move your exhibits, right? A through H?
I believe for the record, A was the Google Earth photo, Exhibit B was the tax map, Exhibit C was the site photo 1 as of July 2nd, 2024. Exhibit D was the second site photo as of July 2nd, 2024. Exhibit E was the Bowler Engineering site plan. Exhibit F was the traffic study prepared by Traffic Planning and Design. Exhibit G was Mr. Citrullo's resume as the civil engineer, and Exhibit H was Mr. DiMartino's resume or CV as the traffic engineer, and of course the underlying application with exhibits.
Any objections?
No objection.
All right, they're admitted. Do you have any?
Kane, I'd like to call Edward Rimmer.
Okay.
Ed, if you could step to the microphone.
Please raise your right hand.
I'm sorry, Edward W. Rimmer.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please.
Edward W. Rimmer. I live at 459 Kenwood in Drexel Hill.
Dr. proceed.
Go ahead, Robert.
Thank you. Mr. Rimmer, do you have property close to this site?
Yes, I received 2 notices from the board.
And where are those properties located?
One is right across the street from the proposed property on the other side of Eagle Road. And so it's right on the corner. It's the one that sticks out and stops all the traffic.
And Mr. Rimmer, why is it that you're opposed to this zoning application?
Let me just go back a little bit. I've owned this property for 40 years in January, so I do know a history of it. And the gas station across the street never seemed very active. It looked like it did repairs. What they're proposing now is a gas station and a convenience store, and it's different. In any event, I bought my property when there's 4 apartments up above on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and they will be impacted by this because the price of the apartments will go down because of all the noise and the traffic. But the real problem I have is the 4 stores that are on the 1st floor. I've watched what's happened to me, and I've been lucky that I've managed to keep people in it. When I first bought this store, a barber shop was there, was Jim's. And after that, next to it was the dress shop, and it was a normal dress shop. The woman ran a dress shop. And then on the corner was a phone store, which I never understood how the hell they worked at because, I mean, it was a lot of activity, okay? In any event, over the years, these customers of mine, these lessees, have changed. The barbershop went to a hair salon, and that didn't make it either, eventually. But eventually, and now what's there 40 years later, which is probably, he's been there maybe 8 years or so, nice guy, he does cameras. Not cameras for click. He does cameras on my properties and other people's properties. So virtually no one ever comes to it. It's not retail. He stores stuff there. People sometimes visit. I sometimes visit. Okay, I have 3 of my properties with his camp. Does a great job, by the way. I would highly speak of him. Next to it was a dress shop, as I said. And the dress shop then became a collectible store, which is the kiss of death, okay? That's telling you property's really going down, okay? That store now is I don't know what it says they sell cabinets, kitchen cabinets. I've never seen anyone in the store. She pays her rent. I don't know what she does. I'm sure she does some cabinets. There's a cabinet store across the street. And then the phone store is now the Dream Team. The Dream Team is never there. They use it for advertising. Everybody and their brother gets stuck there. That's why I bought the building. I got stuck there. I loved the balconies and all the stuff. And I looked for it eventually. It was a blinds ad in the thing, and I got the property. Okay? And so my point is, where do I go from here? If you get more traffic there, they won't even be able to pick the stuff up. They won't be able to meet anybody. It's nightmare to go by there. I mean, I have to go by there to go to my 2 daughters' houses. They live in basically Haverford Town, but further on the other side. And so I always go by that corner. So I'm really familiar. And I buy food from the store right next to 34, which is on Hearst Avenue. For years it was empty. Now they have a store there, and it's regular food. It's not the bar food across the street at the, what is it called? The Brick and Brew. Okay? And by the way, they're not bad people. Compared to the other people that were there, these guys actually do, but there's a lot more traffic with them. But in any event, my point is, where do I go from here? In other words, what this guy's going to do is going to be a nightmare to me. It's going to be a nightmare to everybody who tries to go by that corner. The only thing he can do to increase volume is sell it cheaper. And if he does that, you're going to get more people there. It's never ending. I wish the corner didn't exist, but I'm an owner. He's got to do something with it. But I don't think this makes any sense whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Rimmer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lou, questions?
I will just,
Edward,
by
Edward.
pointing out Mr. Rimmer's.
You don't have questions for Edward, correct? You don't have to.
Well, no.
I will return. I think somebody said that, and they meant it.
Is it your testimony that that's not a Dream Team office for plumbing?
And they're never there. There's no one there. It says if you go there and ring the bell, you can ring the bell forever. They don't. That is clearly just advertising. Okay.
Do they occupy it? Does anybody?
Apparently they come there once a month because we did have a water problem, and this is the Dream Team. They're plumbers.
and
Go ahead.
it
We have
ran
a
and
full
ran and
room.
ran.
We have a
Okay,
full room,
we
so-
couldn't figure out what the hell was
We
going
have a
on.
full room. Let's move on.
And so they're not there. They were in the beginning for about a year, and then they abandoned it because really the foot traffic there, I mean, I never go near that corner. Never. I cross in the middle of the street. Now, I know that's against the law, but I'm running the risk of it because I can see the cars. If I go to the corner, then it's coming at me from four sides, basically. And the people that turn the corner coming down Darby Road to make the right-hand turn, they think they're on a speedway because they think they're going to, and my building does block it. Matter of fact, I wouldn't let them make my building, they wanted to, I went to hearings for 2 years to prevent them from making the building historic, which then they couldn't take down. There was the worst thing they could do was actually be successful.
I'm going to object myself in a minute, Louis. Like, how's this relevant? So, like, ask him a relevant question or let's move on.
All right. Mr. Rimmer, doesn't your testimony regarding your clients or your tenants' uses establish the difficulty of developing a viable use in the C3 district at that intersection?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I'd like it to stay a vacant lot, okay, but it can't. Somebody will do something with it.
Thank you.
Yes, question?
You guys
Ed?
have any questions?
No questions.
Clemenza, you got nothing?
Hope I
Jesse?
haven't been too animated.
Jesse? Neither do I. You have any other witnesses, Robert?
No other witnesses. Thank you, Mr. King.
Okay. And no, you didn't, I didn't mark any exhibits, right?
No, I did not.
Okay. So with that, we're going to go to public comment. Is there anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify? Please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your full name and address, please.
Susan Maxwell, 17 West Hillcrest Avenue, Havertown.
Wait, Susan, you went too fast. What was your address real quick again?
17 West Hillcrest,
Okay,
Havertown.
thank you. What would you like to tell us?
It's more a set of questions that I have that I'm concerned because my property is right next to Julie's property, and we do use, as you politely call it, the private driveway or the alleyway. Our garage is in the back, and so we are concerned about increased traffic going up and down the alleyway, or the fuel trucks parking on the alleyway side of the curb while they fill the tanks, or their delivery trucks for the convenience store parking on that side of the alleyway and then blocking it. That's my way to get in and out of my house. That's where our cars are parked, in the back. I'm also worried about the amount of trash that will happen down the alleyway. Beside our garage, there's call it a brick patio, although we don't use it for that, that would be extremely tempting to the younger members of our township to sit and have some parties and stuff. And I'm wondering about what we can do to prevent that from happening if this goes in. Also, I know that West Hillcrest is prohibited from coming in off of Darby Road between 4 and 6 p.m. for people cutting the light, but I have a feeling that that is going to increase with the increased traffic going down Darby Road to get to the gas station, and those are just some of my concerns. Thank you.
Making notes of that, Louis? Okay. Anyone else? You don't have any questions, right? Jess? Ed? Jesse?
So essentially, I'm opposed to this petition.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. You received certified mail? No. No, the young lady in the back. Yes. But did you receive certified mail or regular mail? No. Or no mail? Never mind. And did you receive certified mail? No, behind you. No, the young lady to my right. I have a young lady to the left, the young lady to the right. Screw the certified mail. Let's just move.
I did not receive
Okay.
notice of the
Please
project.
raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Karen W. Ramsey, 212 Ellis Road, Havertown.
And what would you like to tell us, Karen?
I'm sorry, say again?
What would you like to tell us tonight?
I would just like to make a very simple comment, which is, despite all of the, in my opinion, very distracting testimony that we have heard through the course of 3 hearings, this is potentially, I think, a very simple question, which is that gas stations are, as you all know, a non-permitted use in a C3 district. And I happen to be an architect, and I've been involved in a lot of other zoning hearings in my career in other townships, and we are generally, when we are the applicants, required to provide evidence of the legal hardship that exists that prevents the applicant from using the property in a way that is in compliance with the C3 zoning district regulations. I haven't heard anything in any of this testimony that presents what that legal hardship is, not financial hardship, but legal hardship. And so it seems to me that it is potentially a very simple decision to say, gas stations are not permitted in a C3 district, and they're not permitted for good reason. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Questions? Robert? Louis? Jess? Ed? Jesse?
No.
Anyone else that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Full name and address for the record, please.
Michelle Alvarez, 134 Hastings Avenue, Havertown, Pennsylvania. A-L-V is in Victor, A-R-E, accent aigu, but you can't do that. I am vehemently opposed to this, as many of my neighbors are in the Hastings Avenue. You can say to us that there's a traffic study that says in 1 hour a day there's an additional 30 or so cars that are going to be generated. But in reality, if you live in this little quadrant of Oakmont, the rush hour begins when the school's let out at 2:30. And it doesn't end until about 7 o'clock at night. And it's a nightmare to get through that intersection. I think we have proof of how difficult it is based on the accident of the car that ended up inside of Katz Pharmacy 2 months ago. And the intersection is already dangerous. We already can't get through that traffic light. It's backed up all the way to beyond Colfax at many points in time, and all the way down to the traffic light at the Y on Darby Road. So this type of use with 8 people going in there to get gas at one time, I cannot believe that you can even fit 8 cars by length at gas pumps in there, 4 on each side. And then where's the parking for the people that want to go to the convenience store? Years ago, when Wawa petitioned to have a gas station as part of Wawa, they were denied, I believe, for the same reason. It's not a conforming use. And they have tons more space to have a gas station off the side of their property. And they weren't permitted, and it would only involve one street, not Eagle and Darby. It would just involve Eagle. So I am vehemently opposed to a gas station and convenience store on this corner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions for Michelle? Louis? Robert?
Ma'am, you understand that we're not acting, my client, the applicant, is not parking variances. Leaves it in, so the parking space.
No, I don't see how you could fit that for a convenience store.
And the way, it should have been posed as a question, but it wasn't. So, Jess? Clemenza?
No question.
Jesse? Anyone else? Wow. All right. Ladies, no, you've been patiently waiting, so come on up. We might as well get it out of the way.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
And your
yes.
full name and address, please?
Phil Smith, 406 Cherry Lane. So
What would
I'm
you
down
like to
behind
tell us?
Oakmont School.
What would you like to tell us? Phil?
And I just want to say that the intersection with the Wawa is already nuts. With kids walking and traffic going both ways, as was mentioned. And I don't know why we want to replicate that same amount of traffic 1 block over. I like the line of questioning earlier that says Are you absolutely sure we have to have a gas station here? Aren't there other things that can be done? So I'm not posing, I'm not an attorney, I don't know how to pose that as a question, I'm sorry, but
No, your
is there no way to have made this?
No. Comments to the board don't have to be posed as questions, but if you're cross-examining a witness, it should be posed as a
Well,
question and not just argue
Yeah,
with them.
yeah,
So
I
ignore
just don't
that.
want to replicate the problem that we already have with the Wawa corner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? And when you give your comments, the parties have an opportunity to ask you questions then, or the board. So rather than say everybody's name a million times, and I left Julie out that last loop, if you have a question for a witness, just tell me before they go sit down, because I don't want to repeat everybody's name 50 times. But thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go off the record for a minute. Jeff, we'll go off. We can go back on, Jeff, please. All right. Any other residents? Come on.
My name is,
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
absolutely,
And your full name for the record?
Philippe Suray. I live at 26 East Clearfield Road in Havertown. First name is Philippe. It's the French version of Philip. Last name is Suret, Soret.
And what was your name? Yeah.
My address is 26 East Clearfield Road, Havertown, Pennsylvania. So I live 3 blocks up Darby Road from the proposed site.
It's okay. What would you like to tell us today?
So I have a couple things I wanted to mention. First, I don't know how to say it, but I don't really believe the traffic expert at all, because when I go onto the first part of his website on his traffic safety or whatever the TPD, whatever the website is here, it says our quality transportation impact studies. This is in his services overview. Our quality transportation impact studies, expert testimony, and graphics capabilities assist in obtaining timely approvals, which sounds to me like if you pay him enough, he'll say pretty much anything. That's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing I wanted to mention is it doesn't meet a lot of the different, how do I say it? It doesn't meet a lot of the community needs. So there's another gas station 0.1 miles away, which he owns. There's a Wawa for a convenience store 0.1 miles away. Another 7-Eleven 0.4 miles away. So we've got 2 convenience stores and a gas station all within half a mile. And also, when you look at this proposal here, there's no place for an electric car. And as electric cars become more and more of our society, and become much more prevalent in our society, rather, I should say, there are no level 3 charging stations in Haverford Township, which, if you know anything about electric cars, there's 3 levels of charging. A level 3, you'll get your car about fully charged in about 40 minutes. There's a level 2 outside here, but that takes about 4 hours to get to about 80%. There is not a single level 3 anywhere in the township. And all of this is to say, basically, it's not meeting any of the, it's not meeting any already unmet community needs, this proposal, and I just don't think it should be around.
Questions?
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, this young lady in the purple sweater, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Nancy A. Boxer, Boxer. My address is 2414 Hurst, that's Hirst Terrace in Havertown. It's right around the corner from the property. I have several things that were bothering me about the proposal. One is that if the gas station opens at 4:30 in the morning, is that correct? And goes until 11:30 at night, that means that there could be substantial noise emanating from, trucks and motorcycles and cars and filling tanks and so on, starting at 4:30 in the morning, which violates the noise ordinance, I think, of Haverford Township, which is to start at 8. So that's one thing that is bothersome. And since
I'm right around the corner, but my rear of my house is directly opposite from the gas station. I know it will be disturbing, and I'm sure it will be disturbing to our neighbors also. So the noise and the hours are concerning to me. I'm concerned, I don't think anyone has mentioned about the increase in air pollution, methane and other carbon usually comes off-gassed from leaks in the tanks, leaks in the pipes, people not fitting the end of the hose precisely on their gas tanks. And here in Havertown, we have been working to reduce our carbon footprint. This will increase our carbon footprint. We have climate goals for the township, and this will take us in the opposite direction. So I don't think that that is a positive for the community. I'm concerned because I have not heard anything about parking for the employees. The street that I live on right around the corner seems like it could be one target for employees who drive to work. And we have limited parking on our street. It's only legal to park on one side of the street. However, we have a daycare at the bottom of the street. And so for long periods of time, Monday through Friday, we have people illegally parking on the street already. I think this will just increase the difficulties when, you have family come over to visit and, they have to maybe park 2 blocks away, which is not a terrible thing, but not convenient. So no parking, no facilities that we've heard of for snow that piles up and, you have to shovel it out of the way, no place for the dumpster. So these are kind of like external to the property, but will affect people nearby. I'm concerned the traffic engineer was dismissive of what I think he called them drive-through or pass-through trips. And was only focusing on the new trips that were generated. But if you have a trip, if you have someone just driving straight through, they're only on the road for a very small period of time in any one location. But if you have them drive, make a right turn or a left turn into a lot, and then come out 10 minutes later, and then again have to merge into traffic through either a right or a left turn, that is not nothing. If you have an extra, what did he say, 70 or something, pass-through trips that are generating additional right and left turns onto the roadways, that also increases the congestion and the tailpipe pollution and the confusion and the difficulty of the school kids crossing and so on. So that's my 4th point. My 5th point is that it seems to me that if you're going to make a variance in the rules, then it has to be for a good reason that promotes necessary things in the community, necessary goods or services, or a better feeling of community. But instead, what I'm hearing is that this is something that's going to increase noise, increase air pollution, increase traffic and congestion. It's going to cannibalize at least 4, maybe 6 or 8 different businesses in the area that sell substantially overlapping goods. I haven't seen anything positive from this particular use of the land that would, to me, justify giving variances. Instead, I've seen only things that make the community worse off, make the residents worse off, and make the other businesses worse off. So those are my objections to this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Question? No? Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for your time.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
My name is Lisa Lerner, Learner. I live at 70 West Hillcrest Avenue.
And what would you like to tell us, Lisa?
We have porch parties and lots of people, about 40 people a couple of weeks ago. and I walk my dog, and I know a lot of people in the area, within like a 5 or 6 mile radius. And Hillcrest, I've been living there for about 32 years. It used to be, you could count the cars coming down Hillcrest. There's a sign at the end of Hillcrest on Darby that says no entering from 4 to 6 p.m. I count, it's ridiculous. There are lots of kids on the street, more than there were years ago. They're on those scooters. They go through stop signs, as do the cars. And I catch my breath every time I see it. Basically, I think you can shave off about 5 seconds of your trip if you go down West Hillcrest with that sign. And somebody mentioned that PennDOT, you know, it's not really, it's not hard. You know, it's not a hard rule. People go flying down there all the time. It's ridiculous. Since I live in the community and I know a lot of people in the community, you've got Kelly's music. You've got the farmer's market. Both are community-based institutions. They're just, you see people walking with their bags to go to the market. Kelly's is wonderful. I had a show there a year ago with my artwork. Like 50 people came. It was wonderful. And there were people from the community. My concern is that to serve the community, you need to be creative. And there's nothing creative about a gas station. When you had mentioned that it's a beautiful gas station, I had to catch my breath. There's no beauty in a gas station. If there were a gazebo, in that area, if you had a little park, if you had diagonal parking, you could have concerts there. People with strollers could walk down Hillcrest Avenue without fear of dying and get there. You could also have the market, instead of being in a church parking lot, utilize that space and have extra parking space where people could come out without going into Eagle Road. I'm just thinking about the community, this wonderful gentleman here who had mentioned he's been there for 40 years. Haverford Town has a real, I don't know, it's a homey place. And if there's a gas station on every corner and people are driving through and people own stores that aren't in the stores, it's just empty. And there are more and more young families. At our porch party, we had somebody bring a 8-month-old baby. And there were like 50 and 60-year-olds there. And everybody walked up and didn't drive, walked up with it was a porch pizza potluck party. Everybody came, the lights were on. I like to watch what goes on in the neighborhood. I'm with my dog, I'm watching things that are going on. I'm aware, I'm present to where I am. If you have people on their way someplace else, driving through, just a drive-through, I'm on my way someplace. I'm not stopping here. I'm getting gas and a Twinkie. Bye. That's all I have to say.
Okay, questions? Anybody else? Come up, son. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
My name is Kyle Cahill, and I live at 2418 West Darby Road. Cahill, Cahill. So,
What would you like to tell us, Kyle?
I don't know if you know where that is, but it's literally next door to the proposal. Like, there's a dentist, I live above it.
Okay.
So, I have 5 children, 2 of them being babies, 18 months old, 6 months old. A lot of people took what I was going to say, pretty much, but gas stations, 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, as I just said, I have babies. Is there going to be lights, sound, like music playing? What's the sound volume that they're going to have? There's going to be people pulling in, pulling out. The alleyway there, Is there going to be like gas trucks going down it? There's a lot of stuff that I don't think they really are covering in this. And I mean, 100 more people coming. My kids walk to the middle school. They walk to the high school. They're going to be walking back while there's, 50 more cars pulling into the parking lot there? That's insane. So, I don't know. I'm obviously opposed to it since there's a gas station a block away and there's a Wawa. I can see it sometimes. And 7-Eleven, CVS. I just don't think we need another gas station and another convenience store there at all, really. And I just think it would be, like she was saying, Havertown's quiet, it's nice. I don't really want to have like a bunch of hubbub brought in here just because of a gas station that we don't even need. So, I don't know if I have anything else to say because, like I said, people took my
that's all
stuff.
right.
But
And look, sometimes when there's a large crowd of residents, others come up and just say, I agree with everything Kyle said, or,
Right.
or
That's-
Lisa.
that's what I'm saying.
And that's fine, because you just get your comments on the,
Yeah,
your
right.
position on the record, and that's
Yeah.
cool. You don't have to make some long speech. Don't worry about it.
all right, cool.
Any questions for Kyle? No? Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, everybody.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Elizabeth McElreavy, McElrea, V as in Victor, EY, 229 Wendover
Never
Drive.
would have gotten that one.
I know,
It's a toughie.
it is.
We're going with
It is.
Elizabeth.
Um,
What would you like
I
to
just
say,
had a
Susan?
few points to make. I just don't see how this benefits the residents. I think we'd be better off to pave the whole thing off and make a right turn lane to service the traffic that's in that area. It is the worst intersection in our town, the worst. You have SEPTA buses, you have Wawa, you have a pharmacy, you have a church, you have the market that is there, you have nudies now. You could make it a parking lot or make it right turn lane. There's too much happening in that area. And I don't believe that another gas station or convenience is going to benefit us. I really think that we have to think about this. We want to improve the look of our town in that Oakmont area. There's a lot of restaurants now. There's not a lot of parking. There's a lot of cut through on these people's streets. I don't even live there, and I avoid that intersection. We need to come up with another option. Maybe it brings in tax revenue, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think that we need any more traffic. We have tens of thousands of cars that must go through that intersection or through our town every day to get to these main roads. We have gas stations that are lining the surroundings of our town, which is perfect. Let them be on City Line or Township Line or on Westchester Pike or something like that. We don't need to put this into the middle of our township. We really need to service our residents, their quality of life with noise and now light. It's going to be light pollution, noise pollution. We really need to think this over. I think this gentleman, I understand he wants to have another business, but apparently he has a couple already. Can he find another location somewhere else and leave our quiet town? We already got enough traffic. We don't need any more. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Any questions for Elizabeth? No? Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up. Hi, how you doing? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Gwen Bland Cohen, 4 Cedarbrook Road, Ardmore.
How do you spell your last name, Glenn?
BLANDCOHEN. So I live in the Murray and Gulf Manor section. I am on Darby Road. I've lived there for over 20 years. Prior to that, I lived right off of College Avenue. So my CV includes 30 years on busy streets in Haverford Township. And we could extend that because it would also include 2.5 years on Belmont Avenue in Lower Merion Township in Ballackinwood. So I am my own version of a traffic expert. I can assure you, because my office actually faces Darby Road, so I'm sitting there all day. In the afternoons, starting at about 4:40, the traffic comes from Darby and Eagle, and it stretches, everyone's trying to go eastbound on Darby, and it stretches from Eagle Road past my street. I was also involved before Marion Golf Club hosted the 2013 US Open. I was very involved in the traffic for that, the traffic study and how we were going to manage that through the township. I also know from personal experience that even trying to come out of the alleyway that is next to the gas station that runs perpendicular to Eagle Road, people won't even let you out to turn, whether you're making a right or a left. You can't get out. So I really don't see how this is practical for a gas station. I know that in a similar situation at a gas station on Haverford Road, right at Buck Lane, it's a 4-lane at that point on Haverford Road. And again, you have trouble getting in or out of that station. People just don't let you in or out. And other folks have mentioned how many kids do walk through that intersection. And I fear for everyone's safety. And that's my personal experience with traffic in Haverford Township. I don't see how you could make this work to be a successful business. And I don't see how it would be a success in Haverford Township.
Okay, questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Oh, Jen? I didn't know if you were here in an official capacity or,
I am in an official capacity, but not as an attorney.
okay, I need to swear you then. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your name, and I know you're gonna have to spell your last name for.
I know. So my name is Jennifer Bazidlo, Bazydlo. And I'm here on behalf of Discover.
And your address, Jen.
Oh, so that's actually relevant to what I was about to say. I'm here on behalf of Discover Haverford as an organization, and their address is 412 Darby Road.
But not in an attorney capacity, right?
Not as an attorney, I am a board member of Discover Haverford. So,
Okay.
And just for reference, we voted twice unanimously as a board to make a statement here tonight, and I was also approved unanimously by the board to make this statement. So, just a little bit about Discover Haverford for those who might not know. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization which was founded in 2010. Our mission is to facilitate business owners, commercial property owners, township government, and residents working together to revitalize our aging business districts and promote economic growth and development throughout the township. Our work has always been focused on creating more,
I was thinking speed up on me because we have 2 more cases, but we'll meet in the middle somewhere.
I'll try to get in the middle of quick and recordable. Our work has always been focused on creating more attractive, walkable, and safe business districts that enhance the character, charm, and quality of life in our community. Our organization has worked particularly hard at revitalizing the Oakmont district around Darby and Eagle Roads. And we are very interested in seeing the property at 2400 Darby responsibly developed. The street corner at 2400 Darby is the center of our town and at the heart of the Oakmont and Eagle Road commercial districts. We would like the current empty lot to be developed into something that adds value to our community and fosters the economic growth of the Oakmont and Eagle Road commercial district. A gas station and convenience store at this location would not provide that value and would be inconsistent with the township's vision for the land use in the community as expressed through our township zoning codes. 2400 Darby Road is Zone C3 General Commercial Use, a zoning district that prohibits gas stations. It is understood that this property had previously been used as a gas station. The previous gas station was a non-conforming pre-existing use, As you know, nonconforming uses are those that existed prior to the enactment of the zoning codes that would otherwise prohibit them. These uses are allowed to continue operation under the new zoning codes, but are phased out once the use is discontinued and abandoned. The gas station use of this property was discontinued and abandoned many years ago. The infrastructure for the gas station was removed, and the environmental damage from the use remediated. The granting of the requested variance would result in a use that is inconsistent with the township zoning codes, out of character with the existing community, and does not further community goals of safe, walkable, revitalized business districts in our township. As part of our work at Discover Haverford, we were in regular communication with local business owners and residents. Many business owners and residents have expressed to us that they would like to have more walkable communities and business districts that are safe for pedestrians and cyclists. A gas station and convenience store at this location would have a negative impact on the walkability of our business districts and have a negative impact on pedestrian safety, as it would result in cars and other vehicles regularly crossing sidewalks and pedestrian walkways in areas that are already difficult and hazardous to pedestrians. The community also regularly expresses interest in promoting diverse businesses in our township. There are already 2 gas stations in close proximity to Darby Road, to 2400 Darby, as well as numerous convenience stores and delicatessens nearby. Another non-conforming gas station and convenience store would not add value to the community. As such, we ask that the requested variances be denied. However, if after considering this and all other public input, the zoning hearing board still wishes to consider granting these variances for this property, then we request that the case first be referred to the Township Planning Commission for review and comment. This would provide the township with an opportunity to conduct a more thorough review of the plan and consider issues that the zoning board might not be able to address, specifically the location of access points, restriction of movement, internal circulation, and the impacts to the site plan related to the inclusion of improvements associated with Eagle Road corridor design standards. With that, I just want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Jen. Questions for Jen?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Jess.
Did the owner ever approach Discover Haverford for advice on what kind of uses or tenants?
We have been in communication with the owner. I have not personally been part of that group, but I know there has been outreach and communication.
It didn't yield anything, any other leads?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. Angela, come on up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Angelo Capuzzi, Capuzzi, 1110 Alston Road, Haverford Town. I am a member of the Township Planning Commission, although I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight. I'd like to comment on the traffic engineer's testimony. He did say that this site is going to create 30 additional peak hour traffic into the property compared to the bank that was previously approved. It did say that PennDOT approved the bank project, but I want to point out what those improvements consisted of. Number one, the driveways were located as far away from the intersection as possible. If you look at the site plan, moving the access onto Eagle Road as far away from the intersection as possible is going to bring the driveway in opposite the proposed building. It's going to be very difficult for any type of large vehicles to negotiate through the site with those restrictions. Also, the PennDOT required no left turns out of the site, and which means that anybody coming north on Darby Road get into the site, but they can't get out and continue north on Darby Road without going through a neighborhood. So my comment is that the site plan as it's presented does not accurately reflect what it may end up being, and that would require, it may require more variances because of the disruption to the proposed parking. Additionally, on a land development standpoint, Eagle Road has specific design standards, which include a grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk, which pushes the sidewalk away from the curb. And again, that's going to push into the property and may affect the layout as proposed. There's also requirements for fencing around parking areas, pillars, just see what was done down by the YMCA. That's similar to what would be required here. And the previous bank project did provide those improvements. And finally, I do have one question. When the the gas station previously existed on this property do you know how many fueling stations there were? Was it 4? 4? So we're basically doubling what was there before. And I would strongly recommend that the board consider before taking any action that you refer the plan to the Planning Commission for their review, and you might get some additional insights from the the township engineer's review of the plan. That's all.
Mr. Chair, I would simply note for the record that my statement is no relative to the number.
I said fuel stations, not fuel pumps.
Sorry, fuel stations.
There's 4 pumps, there's 8 stations, right?
I would defer to Mr. Bronsman's prior testimony.
And we're not going to have back and forth discussion. Now that you've testified, Angelo, if you have a question, you can ask your question of the witness, and if he knows the answer, he can answer.
Mr. Capuzzi, from your personal firsthand recollection, you know the number of fueling stations of the prior gas station?
I asked that question and someone in the audience said 4.
All right, so you're relying on somebody else's hearsay?
Well, your client should be able to tell me.
That's the question I asked.
Okay.
I'll take his answer. Relying on somebody else.
Can I have an answer to my question? Can your client answer my question?
Public comment.
Okay.
Any other questions? Jessica, Ed?
No question.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Angela. And Angela, just before you step away, in full candor, we're not going to refer it to the Planning Commission for input because we've never done that and we don't do that.
Okay.
But come on up. I'm sorry. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Joseph Anthony Colantonio, that's Colantonio, and I'm 31 East Clearfield. And I would just like to say that I agree to everything that's been said here, especially that French guy back there. And so
The one you're
that's
sitting
like, I
next to in
oppose.
the audience?
Yeah.
All right, and no questions? Great,
Yeah.
thank
Any
you.
question? No.
Wait. Oh. I have to get one of those laser pointers for you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address, please.
Joshua Trolley, Trolley, 19 East Clearfield Road. To answer your question, it was 3 pumps that had 6, so 6 stations. That was what the old gas station was. Got a picture of it here. You need it, so there you go. And I agree with everybody else. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, no questions?
Yeah.
Now. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
And full name and address, please.
Bill Rusden, Rusden, 15 West Hillcrest Avenue. I live with Julia. I do have a couple things. You mentioned that he owns several gas stations. The gas station that I'm aware that he owns has a two-lane exit going one way, and the opposite way coming out has 1 lane. This is 1 lane both ways. Another guy just mentioned Clearfield Street. If you come from Ardmore Avenue, you actually have to cut down another street just to get to your street, unless you got 20 minutes to waste, basically, to wait in line. We have the dumpster issue, we have the light issue. As far as our back door, we can't even open it anymore because we hear police sirens and ambulance and fire engines coming down all the time now. How is that going to impede on the corner, basically? How are they going to be able to get to where they have to go with more traffic? You have crossing guards. Are you going to put another crossing guard there? You have cops when the crossing guards don't show up. Who's going to pay for them? It's just a busy corner. There's no reason for it. Somebody mentioned about making it a park. We also would like it to be a park. He laughed. Okay, I don't know if you can see him up there. It's not funny. You live in Florida, 1,300 miles away. Okay, we live here. So it's not funny.
We can't.
Okay, but to put more traffic here, okay, if somebody gets hit, is his insurance gonna pay for it when it's on the other side of the street? Where's the snow gonna go? Okay, is it gonna go in our driveway? Okay, where's the foot traffic? You're gonna have people going to the store buying vapes. We have enough crime coming down into this area now that we don't have to invite more for somebody that's 1,300 miles away because he wants to make maximum dollars. Okay, there's plenty that this thing can basically be. There's no reason for it. As far as coming in and out of Havertown, you got Westchester Pike, you got Lawrence Road, you got Ardmore, which takes you 2.5 miles away before you can get to Westchester Pike. And I've lived here for 13 years. I don't even know how to get around any other way. If it's more congested here, why would you even want to live here? So to put something here to chase people away, okay, to make a gas station, to make more money, maybe the township can buy it and do something with it. He's already sold it twice.
That's outside our purview.
Okay, it's just not safe. Okay, and I would hate for somebody's kid to get hurt and come back to here. You know, it could have been prevented. Okay, you have the roadways, okay, where they just came in to tell you that they needed a variance. Why wasn't the variance done first before they wasted everybody's time? Okay, as far as the variance now, if he doesn't get the variance, all this was a waste. If he gets the variance, if he doesn't get the variance, and this is his talk the first night.
But what was it a waste, Bill, if he doesn't get it because he had his hearing?
Because everybody's here.
But he had his
the variance
hearing.
should be done. The variance should be done first. He should be able to build it before he wants to know whether or not he can build it. He's doing it backwards. Okay, it's just too much. You can't put I work at the airport. I work in the arrival road. You got people coming down the arrival road at Thanksgiving that are in line for 3 hours trying to get down the arrival road. You can't put 1 million cars where 100 cars can fit. It just doesn't work. Now you got people coming home from work that want to be home at 6 o'clock at night that have to sit in traffic for 45 minutes. When I go to work tonight at 11 o'clock, I'm at work in 15 minutes. When I come home, it takes me 50 minutes to get home. I turned around right where the V is at the Wawa. I don't even know the streets, but you got Darby and whatever that street is to go to Wawa. It took me 4 lights to get from that V to my house, which is the first street on the other side of, what do you call it, Eagle Road. It's ridiculous. You don't need more traffic. People that live far away, it doesn't matter. Okay, for, the attorneys, other people that are here, it doesn't matter. But if you put it in your front, front of your house, it's a whole different story. It shouldn't be done. It's actually, it's greed. Okay, there's only so much money that you can have before you know it, greed takes over. And this is all greed.
Okay. Any questions? No? Come on up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
And full name and address, please.
Meredith Mullen, M-U-L-L-A-N, 208 West Hathaway Lane, Ardmore.
Sorry, I didn't hear your name.
Meredith Mullen, 208 West Hathaway. All right. So my name is Meredith Mullen. I live in Marion Golf Manor. I grew up in Marewood, and my family's been in Haverford Township for over 70 years. Oakmont and this township in general is a very special place to me. All of the new economic development on Eagle Road and Darby Road over the years has been a welcomed addition to the fabric of Havertown. It's so nice to be able to walk up to the Barada, Havertown Grill, Hendren House, and all of the other restaurants and shops that have opened. The traffic concerns in Oakmont are already a major safety concern without another gas station. Just a month ago, as you know, a car crashed into Katz Pharmacy. Any one of our neighbors could have been killed if they were standing there. Adding a gas station will only increase the amount of traffic coming in and out around that corner. Additionally, we already have a gas station, as was mentioned, a block down. Why do we need another one right in the middle of the township in our downtown area? Oakmont could be a destination, and the corner of Eagle and Darby is prime real estate to make this feel. We need a quality business or a mixed-use retail residential space that people want to walk to or visit. In the past, there was a bakery, jeweler, cobbler, Mapes, a bridal salon, meat market, bike shop, and card shop in Oakmont over the years. Useful businesses that neighbors actually visited. Also, a parking lot could be a solid option to increase the parking in this area and promote additional economic development at the other addresses on Eagle and Darby. Cars park down Hathaway Lane now to go to the restaurants in Oakmont. The fight for something that will improve Haverford Township going into this lot has been going on for many years. Why do we want to go backwards with yet another gas station and no additional value to the community? Thank you.
Thanks, Meredith.
Question, Chair.
Yep. Wait, Meredith.
Ma'am, can you show us where in the C3 zoning district ordinance a parking lot is being permitted?
I have not.
Anyone else? Now, I think I need to swear you, but I'm going to do it just to be safe, Julia. Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address?
Julia Brooks, 15 West Hillcrest Avenue, Havertown, Pennsylvania.
Okay. What would you like to tell us, Julia?
I would like to say that I don't believe that the owner, Mr. Brotzman, has proved hardship that would be sufficient to get the variances or the changes to the zoning that he's requesting. I do believe that the project that he is suggesting would be a hardship on everyone who lives in Haverford Township.
Okay. Any questions for Julia? No? Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. With that, we'll close it up. You had no exhibits. Your exhibits are admitted. Any other administrative matters or anything we else need to cover? Okay. With that, we'll close the record on this case, and the decision will be rendered either this evening. In the event we're unable to reach a decision this evening, which is very unlikely due to the lateness, a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on November 7th. You're welcome. Yeah. We'll go off the record, Jeff. I'm good. All right. Our next case is Z24-34, Edward and Anne Marie Dutch, owner of 308 Maryland Avenue, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2201-0119100, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-207C5A to permit a 10-foot by 20-foot covered porch addition to encroach 2 feet into the required front yard setback, where the required setback is 30 feet. The applicant desires a 28-foot setback. Property is zoned R5 and located in the first ward. So, I need to swear you guys in. Ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Anne Marie Dutch, 308 Maryland Avenue, Havertown.
Okay, and now you, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address, please?
Edward W. Dutch, 308 Maryland Avenue in Havertown.
Okay, so attached to your submission to the township with your request were various exhibits that need to be identified and marked and then moved into the record. So it looks like you've already prepared an exhibit list, which includes A1 through A4. A1 being a copy of the deed, A2 being signatures of neighbors in support of the covered porch, a petition basically. A3 is site plan and proposed covered front porch drawing. A4 impervious coverage calculation worksheet. And is there anything else you'd like to mark?
Yes, please, A5, as our reasoning and description of what we are requesting.
Okay. Now that we got the formalities out of the way, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Good evening, and thanks in advance for your consideration. We are Edward and Anne Marie Dutch at 308 Maryland Avenue. Respectfully request approval of a variance for the construction of a roughly 20 by 10 concrete pad with a porch roof covering. The request is to add an extension of approximately 2 feet by 20 feet to the existing patio. The variance sought is the minimum variance that will afford us relief so that we can use the patio in the hot sun and in the rain. The variance would allow us to go in and out the front door, our everyday entrance to the house, without getting wet. By adding 2 feet, we would be able to circulate past the patio furniture to grant us access from the driveway to the front door while being under cover. As we are aging, it has become difficult to shovel the patio from the driveway to access the front door during the winter. Our request for this addition is to have relief from the 30-foot front setback to a 28 front yard setback. When our house was built in 1941, the patio was poured without a porch roof on top. There are 4 houses in our block that were built with covered porches. The proposed concrete pad and covered porch roof will not adversely impact the neighborhood, but will blend in with the other houses on the block with covered porches. Our proposed porch will mirror our next door neighbor's covered porch. Their roof is shingled to match their house roof, and our new porch roof will also be shingled to match our existing. Our next door neighbor's covered porch measures the same distance as our proposed covered porch from the right-of-way, 28 feet. When looking at the house, the rainwater will run in a gutter from the left side of the house to the right side, where it will drain into a large flower garden area. It will not negatively impact our neighbors or the township. We have lived in our home for 38 years and take pride in its appearance in the neighborhood. If approved, we foresee the quality of our life to be greatly improved. We are respectfully requesting to add roughly 40 square feet for a new concrete pad and porch covering. We have no intentions of enclosing the porch and will only run electricity for lightings and perhaps a ceiling fan. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. If the porch is approved and constructed, will it project closer to the street than the other porches on your block?
No.
About the same?
About the same.
Okay. Questions? Jessica?
I don't have any questions.
Ed?
Yes, if this variance were approved, would you agree not to enclose the
Yes,
front
we
porch?
have no intentions of.
And would you accept the condition that there would not be any utilities other than electric?
Absolutely.
No other questions?
Jesse?
This is the best application I've seen in 4 years. I have no questions.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Is there anything else either of you would like to add?
No, that's it.
All right. Jess? Sorry if I just threw this in. Sorry if I just threw this in. All right. Then without delay, since Anne Marie and Edward put so much time into this, I'll move that we approve this application with the following condition. No utilities other than electric, porch never be enclosed unless they return to the zoning board and give a good reason, and that the project be completed within 1 year and in accordance with the notes of testimony. How do you vote, Jesse?
I concur.
Ed?
I concur.
Jessica?
Concur.
Okay, that application's approved 4-0 with those conditions.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Thank you so much for your time.
Very much. Thank you. Good evening.
Your application be a guide for all other future applications.
All right. Sorry, Joe, I didn't want to make this here.
I'm here.
Me too. All right, our next case is Z24-29, CMC Haverford Town LP, owner of 2225 Darby Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2203-00732000, who seeks variances from the provisions of section 182404C3 to permit a building cover of 54% when the maximum is 25%. Section 182404C4 to permit the structure front wall to be 5 feet from the right-of-way line when 20 feet is required. Section 182404C5 to permit a side yard of 3 feet when 7 feet is required. Section 182707A3A to eliminate the need for a screening buffer. Section 182707B to eliminate the need for required 7 parking spaces. Section 182708A1A to eliminate the need for a loading, unloading space. Section 182708A2 to eliminate the need for a loading and unloading space and permit off-street parking. Section 708A3, to eliminate the need for a loading and unloading space so trucks do not need to back in or out of the public right-of-way. Section 182712, to permit the proposed building to be constructed in the front and side yard setbacks. And Section 182715, to construct the new building such that it does not have conformity with the other existing structures. Property is zoned C3 and located in a commercial district, 3rd Ward. That was a mouthful.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. And good evening, members of the Zoning Hearing Board and Madam Solicitor. My name is Joe Mattson. I'm a member of the Delaware County and Pennsylvania Bar Associations, and I'm here tonight to represent the applicant, CMC Havertown LP, in this zoning application. Before I begin, I would like to hand up to the board pre-marked exhibits which will be used tonight, and I'd like to make those exhibits part of the record.
Thank goodness. Oh, thanks, Joe.
The exhibits are referenced exhibits A1 through A14, with exhibits A4, A7, and A12 consisting of more than one exhibit. This application involves two separately deeded adjacent lots owned by the applicant. The first lot is 2225 East Darby Road, having a tax folio number of 22-03-000732-00, which contains a business known as the Crossbar Restaurant. The second parcel is an adjacent lot to the right of 2225 East Darby Road, having a tax address of 0 East Darby Road, being tax folio 22-03-00731-00, which is essentially vacant, paved land that is presently used as an outside dining venue for the Crossbar Restaurant. So for purposes of tonight's hearing, we're going to refer to as 0 East Darby Road as 2223 East Darby Road. The deeds to these two lots were made part of the application and are included in the exhibit book that I just handed up as Exhibit A. The application this evening, in summary, involves a request to develop the site at 2223 East Darby Road for use for dining to support the adjacent Crossbar Tavern at 2225 East Darby Road by permanently enclosing the lot and making same part of the business operation of the Crossbar Restaurant. Tonight I have two witnesses. The first is Robert H. Lynn, a registered architect and principal of Lynn Architects, who will be presented as an expert witness and who will be making reference to the exhibits I handed up to the board. The second is Gregory J. Cox, who is the principal of CMC Havertown LP, the authorized representative and the managing partner. May I proceed?
Please proceed, Joe.
I'd like to call my first witness, Robert H. Lynn, registered architect.
How you doing, Robert? Please raise your right hand.
Back.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear this evening, please?
My name is Robert H. Lynn, L-I-N-N, business address 1140 North Providence Road, Media, Pennsylvania.
And Mr. Lynn, you've put your name on the record. What is your occupation?
I'm an architect. I'm registered in Pennsylvania and 24 other states. I'm also the principal of Lynn Architects, which, as you've heard several times before, is a firm of architects, civil engineers, and code officials. I am 29 years on the Planning Commission in Other Providence Township, so I understand what it's like to sit on your side of the table. I'm the zoning officer in Upper Providence Township. I'm also the alternate zoning officer in Chester Township. Basically, we've had our firm now, I founded it 42 years ago.
And part of the exhibits that I handed up to the board is Exhibit A2, which is your curriculum vitae.
Yes, it is.
Can you briefly set forth how this is relevant to this application?
Yes.
Please.
Well, basically, the CV is important only because my experience is in architecture, land use, zoning, and they're the areas being discussed this evening, I believe. So if you would accept my credentials, that's what I do.
Have you previously been accepted by the Haverford Township Zoning Board as an expert in the area of architecture, land use, and zoning?
Yes, I have.
And have you been so accepted by neighboring municipalities as well?
Many times.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, unless the board has any questions, to the credentials, I'd like to offer Mr. Lynn as an expert in the area of architecture, land use, and zoning.
Unless there's discussion or objection from one of the board members, we'll accept Robert as an expert.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn, your firm has been retained by the applicant to provide architectural and zoning advice and services for the property at 2225 and 2223 East Darby Road.
Yes, we have.
And during your testimony tonight, you're going to be referring to the exhibits that were handed up to the board?
The exhibit package, that's correct.
Okay. Can you describe the property located at 2225 East Darby Road, which is the property where the Crossbar Restaurant is situated?
Yes, I can. I think applicants 3, which is the aerial, the Google aerial, with the superimposition of the lot lines helps you. We have a copy directly next to me as well. Basically, the property is 3 doors to the east of Campbell Avenue. I'm going to describe this evening, Darby Road is running east-west, not a true direction, but for descriptive purposes, east-west. The property is on the north side of Darby Road. It has 18 foot of frontage, according to applicants 3. On Darby Road, it has a depth of 105 feet. And by the way, the red with the yellow line is the current Crossbar Restaurant. And the 2223, which we've identified instead of 0, is the subject of tonight's hearing with the white, which you can clearly see in the aerial photograph. The property, and this is really important, it's going to become important throughout the evening. Property is only 1,895 square foot in size. And a further exhibit in the package when I get there will give you a comparative analysis of all the properties on this particular stretch of Darby Road so you can understand that relative to other properties.
Mr. Lynn, what is the zoning classification of the properties to the east and the west side of 2225 East Darby Road?
Both east and west, and by the way, applicants 5 is a copy of the Haverford Township zoning map, and you'll see our property delineated. The property to the east and the property to the west are both zone C3, commercial 3. The property to the rear is also, although used as a residence, currently also zone C3. You'll see one little sliver on the map turned perpendicular, if you will, to our property. So it's surrounded completely by C3.
Now, is a restaurant a use permitted by right in the C3 zoning districts in Haverford Township?
Yes, it is.
Now, do you know when the crossbar at 2225 East Darby Road was purchased by the current owners?
It was April of 2011. So that's 13 years ago.
And was it a restaurant or a tavern prior to that date?
It was. It was all the way back to 1959. In one of the pictures in a minute, you'll see a photo of the original tavern.
After the purchase in 2011, did the current owners make any substantial investment to renovate and improve this building?
They did. And Applicants 4 is a picture of the building. If you would flip to the very last part of Applicants 4, you can see how far this building has come. This is a photograph, the very last picture, before the current owners, who are, of course, both here with us, the 2 brothers, before they got hold of the building. And you'll see the hedge on the right-hand side is actually 2223, so that's where the tent currently is. If you flip one photograph forward, you'll begin to see the construction. That's an April 2012 picture when they began to renovate the building and convert it to something nicer looking. And if you flip 2 more photos forward, you'll see the look of the building today, the crossbar, and to the right, you can actually see the cap of the tent that's been used since COVID for outdoor dining.
Mr. Lynn, is there any available parking for patrons at 2225 East Darby Road?
There is not.
And from the photographs of the before and the after, does it appear that there ever was any parking on site for patrons of that location?
The crossbar has never had any parking on the site.
Now, at some point, the adjacent lot at what we're calling 2223 East Darby Road was purchased by the applicant. Is that correct?
That's correct. And backing up to one comment relative to the last question, it's pretty easy to see why there's not parking, because I have a building with a footprint of a little over 1,300 square feet, which is close to 70% of the lot. So there's absolutely nothing left for parking on the rear. I'm sorry, Joe. To your other question, we're on the 2223, correct?
Right, and that was eventually purchased by the applicant.
It was. In fact, that was purchased on November of 2016.
And if you look at your exhibit package in A1, that the deed is in that package.
It is indeed. All the deeds are there, correct?
Right. That would have been 5 years after the initial purchase of the crossbar at 2225 East Darby Road.
Correct. They acquired it subsequent to their original purchase.
So I think you may have already done this. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. Can you describe the lot at 2223 East Darby Road, which is adjacent to 2225?
Yeah, I really haven't. I've described 2225 previously. So 2223, again, outlined on the applicant's aerial exhibit, has 20-foot of frontage on Darby Road, and the site plan, which is also an applicant's exhibit A5.
Wait, Robert.
That's 20 foot.
Let me.
I described 2225, so 2223 outline.
20 feet of, I'll slow down, Arlene, sorry. Just pull me back, okay? 20 feet of frontage on Darby Road. The west side of the property is 109 feet deep. The east side is 112 feet deep. And the total lot size, and again, important, is 2,181 square feet.
And what are improvements are presently on that lot, if any?
If you flip to applicant 7, there's a series of photographs. And you'll begin to see, once again, the tent, which is a 2-part tent, front and rear part. You can actually, on the second photograph back in A7, see the 2 parts of the tent a little better. Some pedestrian protection from vehicles on the driveway with a fence and some brick piers. The next photograph, the fourth one back, actually shows the 265 square foot rear addition that was a kitchen addition to the crossbar a few years back. In fact, it was in front of this board, I understand, for the approval of that addition to the rear of 2225. And the cars you're seeing in the photograph are actually the cars on 2223, which is the 5 spaces remaining behind the tent once the tent was placed on the site. And finally, there's a photograph inside the tent. The tent actually has 60 seats for dining, which really changed dramatically the capacity. The crossbar itself, between bar seating and high tops and regular seating, only has 36 seats. So this particular COVID tent proved to be successful in a number of ways. It produced seating, but interestingly enough, it also produced a slightly upgraded clientele, I understand. It turned it more from a bar into a little bit more of a family dining restaurant. So it changed the complexion, if you will, of how the building was used.
And Mr. Lynn, you just referenced the tent as a COVID tent. Is that because it was erected during the period of COVID?
I've given it that nomenclature because it was indeed erected, as many tents and outdoor and sidewalk dining were everywhere, as a attempt to continue business during COVID.
And that was approximately in the year 2020?
That is correct.
Okay. And the present tented area is depicted in the photos that are part of Exhibit A7. Is that correct? That's correct.
And the tent, by the way, for the record, is 740 square feet. And again, I testified there's approximately 60 seats in the tent. And it went over there were originally 8 parking spaces on 2223. Again, it didn't belong to the crossbar. It was an independent lot with no development. And the tent covered 3 of the 8 spaces, leaving 5 spaces to the rear.
Okay. And these spaces that are still there, how are they accessed?
They're accessed via a driveway. And I'm going to refer to the applicant's exhibit A3, which belongs to the property immediately to the west. So the access isn't even via 2223. The driveway immediately to the west is the ingress-egress point, which serves 4 spaces behind this building, which is 2217, which is actually also owned by the current owners under a different name.
And just so the board knows, the property at 2217 is owned by Gregory Cox individually. The other properties are owned by the applicant in the partnership name.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there an easement that allows the access to the parking?
No, but there will be. That'd be part of our testimony through Mr. Cox. If an easement is necessary, he will be happy to do that, and some other things for him as well. But that's a
Nothing
good
written
question.
in the deeds currently for any allowable easement.
Mr. Point, to some extent, it's kind of like common ownership. So that's the question of an easement hasn't been raised, but that's a good question. I've had that discussion with the client. So historically speaking, these parking spaces that we're making reference to now never belonged to 225 East Darby Road. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you detail the proposed development of the unimproved parcel at 223 East Darby Road.
Certainly. If you flip to applicants 8 in your package, which is the exhibit on the right-hand side on the easel, the proposal is to construct a new building, 16 foot 8 inches wide and an average depth of 74 feet. The math totals 1,274 square feet as a footprint, one story. And you can see in the exhibit, there's a reception station, there's dining, there's a wait station, and probably of equal importance, there's a new accessible toilet room. The current Crossbar Restaurant Tavern does not have any accessibility in the toilet room. It has a single toilet room servicing the facility. There's also, for the first time ever, an accessible ramp on the front. We've provided a ramp that runs parallel to Darby Road, and that ramp not only gets us into the addition at 2223, but it also has a passageway into 2225. Therefore, it provides accessibility not only to the new addition, but also to the existing building. So there's quite a few accessible amenities that are incorporated as part of this development.
And the ramp you just described and the new toilet that you just described are going to be ADA compliant, right?
They will be, and in fact, I couldn't even build them today if I were going to propose them at all unless they are ADA compliant or ANSI 117 standard compliant.
Can you elaborate how the crossbar has functioned since the dining tent was erected, if you know?
Yeah, I think I alluded to a little bit. I wandered into my testimony there, but in multiple conversations with the owners, the tent has really first staved them during COVID, and number two has really changed their clientele. They've developed quite a bit of more of a family orientation because it's no longer just seats at a bar. It provided some more dining seating, and the models work quite well for them as a business. You know, I think if you take a look at the investment, well, you saw did we go to A4 at this point yet? Did we look at the back foot on A4? Yeah, we did where it started. You can see the investment on A4 between where this building started and where the two brothers have taken it. And, you know, it just continues to evolve into something positive in the future.
And if the relief is granted and the construction undertaken, how many parking spaces would be available?
We would have the same 5 parking spaces to the rear of 2223 that we currently have once the tent was placed on 2223. We will have less seats. The tent currently houses approximately 60 patrons, I testified. This new permanent seating is more in the vicinity of 40 or 42 seats.
Right.
So although it's because we're using the area for a toilet room and a wait station and other components within the building. So we don't have as much dining. We also, when we do this, lose 4 spaces in the existing building because we need a passageway through between the old and the new building. And I see the architect nodding his head up and down. He read my floor plan well, thank you. And you can see, I'll step to the mic for a second. You can see the passageway in the rear, toilet room in the back, the hostess station in the front, the ramp, and then the passageway into the existing crossbar. So we have 5 spaces. And what's interesting, the Haverford Township Code, similar to many other codes, requires a ratio of 1 parking space for every 100 square feet devoted to patron use. That is the patron use cross-hatched in gray, which is all the dining tables. And we have 567 square feet devoted to patron use. So under the ratio of the code, we need, rounding up, 6 spaces. We have 5 spaces. So in a minute, when I go through my variance request, you'll discover one of those is a relatively de minimis request for a single space of relief.
Now, talking about the need for an extra space based upon the patron use, I'm going to call your attention to A10. Does A10 delineate the available off-street parking that's available within the area of the Crossbar restaurant?
Yes, and I want to credit the owners for helping me with some of these counts because they certainly, and you certainly know the street better than I do. But you can see there's over 300 spaces listed here within a quarter mile. And they've gone to the effort to delineate where those spaces exist, you know, whether it's a high school or a chapel or on the road or certain areas. And I put the little the note on there, maximum 4-minute walk, because a human being can walk about 4 miles an hour. And you start to work backward in the higher math. And a quarter mile is about 3 3/4 minute walk. So I wanted to translate it into something realistic, what the walking distance was relative to a timing standpoint. Probably about as far as you walk from the mall parking lot at Christmas time all the way at the back corner, you know. So that's the exhibit A10.
Now, are there other commercial properties in the area that do not have off-street parking?
There are significant commercial properties in this area that do not have any off-street parking. And you don't have to go much farther than aerial photographs to tell that. And again, we actually do have off-street parking. I think the distinction is we have 5 out of the 6 required spaces. So we're a lot closer to ratios than a lot of the businesses.
Now, referring to the exhibit book A11, that appears to be an image of a proposed addition.
It is indeed. And perhaps, Joe, I could step back 1 second and describe a little bit of the character surrounding, if you wouldn't mind for a second. So again, referring to the Google aerial with the superimposed property lines, immediately to the right, to give you an important flavor of what this block is all about. We immediately to the right of this property, I'm sorry, forgive me, to the, I'm going to call it east instead of the right, we have Benny's Men's Hairstyling. And attached to that's another property of 2215 of undescript use. Further right of that, 2207 and 2205. Those 2 properties are an apartment. And then finally, next down in the corner, 2203, just before Hastings Avenue, that's Buggy's Dog. So it's a kind of a mix of apartments and commercial uses. Going to the left, the property immediately to the west has been vacant for a number of years. It still continues to be vacant. That's 2227. And finally, on the corner, I have Campbell's Cleaners, 2229, flanking Campbell Avenue. And I interrupted your line of questioning, but
That's okay. No, that's. Are you finished with that?
I am finished with that. Okay. Now let's go to the image.
Okay.
So working closely with the owners, you asked us to prepare something. You know, obviously they did a stellar job without us when they first bought the building on the facade. They asked us to prepare something a little more rustic looking, and we've proposed. You can see the front, the rustic look. You can actually see the railings of the ramp projecting just beyond the end of the ramp. And then there aren't really windows on the side, but it's just a nod to have something other than a blank facade on the side. There will be some skylights in the roof of the building to bring some lighting from the top. So that's a proposed image, a conceptual image of where the building would go. That's applicant's 11.
Now, the usage would comply with the C3 commercial district, is that correct?
Unlike the previous hearing, we have no use variance request. This is strictly dimensional variance request this evening. There's no use issues.
And there's apparently 10 items of relief that are being requested in this application.
10 items? Oh,
10.
That sounds like a lot. All right, let's go through those. I broke them into 2 categories. Number 1, dimensional, and number 2, parking. So 4 of those are parking, 6 are dimensional. Let me bore you by walking through them, but I promise I will be brief because I think it'll help you understand them. One of the things that's important, if you look at applicant 12, instead of me sitting here reciting a lot of numbers and you taking copious notes and the court reporter trying to follow the numbers, I took the time and created Exhibit 12. And I really think it helps all of us because this talks about the lot sizes up and down this stretch of Darby Road. And if you look at the exhibit closely, you'll see we're right in the middle with 2225 and 2223. The lot size required in the zoning district is 6,250 square feet. There's not a single lot in this stretch of properties that is 6,250 square feet. The red numbers denote something that is below the compliant ratio within the zoning ordinance. And, you know, we start with the corner at 1967. The biggest property that gets close is Bugsy's at 5,826 square feet. The other thing that's important in this exhibit, I think, it talks about, by the way, approximate building sizes. Our footprint, if you recall by my testimony, was 1,274 square feet. You can see it's not inconsistent with other properties in the stretch up and down this particular stretch between Campbell and Hastings. And the building coverage also becomes important. If you look at the building coverages where I'm allowed to have 25%, you know, we have 87, 60, 69. There's only 2 properties that actually have compliant building coverage in the tabular value. I think that's important because, you know, I'm calculating the average lot size here is 3,450 square feet on applicants 12 of the 8 properties. And the problem is when you try to apply a zoning ordinance requiring 6,250 square foot sites to sites of this size, all the dimensions go out the window very quickly. You simply can't do it. So I'm suggesting that the zoning ordinance and the built environment in this quadrant aren't necessarily compatible. So with that, I'm going to go through these pieces, but I think that exhibit really helps set the stage where we're going.
Thank you.
Request number 1. I'm just following these in the order that we were provided by the township when we asked to give us some idea of what our variance requests were. Section 182-404C3. We have a building footprint of 1,274 square feet on a 2,181 square foot lot. So what we have is we have a coverage of 58.4%, and we're allowed to only have 25%. 25% on the smaller lot would only give me 545 square feet, which to translate that, that's the size of 3 parking spaces. So obviously, if I start matching the ordinance, I can't build anything on the site that's valid other than a shed. And again, I'm going to go back and say, take a look at the exhibit, please, A12. I'm not going to repeat all that, but you're getting a flavor of the size of the up and down the stretch. Variance request 2, 182-404C4. It requires a front yard of 20 feet. We have a front yard of 5 feet. The 3 properties immediately to our west have a front yard of 0 feet. The properties going to the right have various front yards, but none of them really hit the 20-foot number. So again, I'm consistent with the non-compliant nature of this block, in my opinion. And that's not just this block, it's other blocks. Number 3, section 182-404C5, going right down the list, 404. I'm required to have a 7-foot side yard. I've proposed a 3-foot side yard. A site is only 19.65 feet wide. So a 7-foot side yard would result in 12.65 feet of building. Again, I'm getting in the narrow category. None of the buildings to my direct west have any side yards. Again, I'm suggesting that this is not unique to the built environment of this section. Number 4, another dimensional variance, 182-707A3 small a. I'm required to have a 5-foot rear buffer when I adjoin a lot that's either commercially zoned, residentially zoned or residentially used. Again, the lot to the rear is a C3 lot. It goes uphill almost 4 to 5 feet on the back, so we are down in the valley compared to the lot, and it is residentially used. I have an existing non-conforming paved area right up to the property line, so again, I don't have my 5-foot rear yard buffer. Actually says the zoning hearing board in the code can rule by special exception. It's not necessary if not practical, but I didn't ask for it. I'm asking for just a variance outright. Now I've done the first 4 of those. I'm going to do 4 very quick parking topics on requests. 182-707B. That requires me to have, again, 6 parking spaces for 557 square feet devoted to patron use. I have 5 parking spaces, so I'm asking for relief for not having the 1 parking space that's required under the code.
Robert, the ad says 7 spaces is required, right?
It should only be 6 because I have, again, my area devoted to patron use rounds up to 6. It's not even 6, it's 5.5.
Okay.
So I really
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I need relief for a space. Number 182-708A1A. I need a 12-foot by 60-foot loading space on my site. I think that's most of my site. And it further goes on to say in another section that the truck has to be able to turn around on my site. So I don't think we're going to make that work. So I'm going to ask for that, and I'll tell you what my hardship is in a minute on that. Number 7. It's almost a tag on number 6. 182-708A2 says that I can't use a parking space on the site for loading. Well, I have 5 parking spaces. Obviously, I'm not going to get a 12 by 60 trailer in one of my 9 by 18 parking spaces. So again, I'm asking for relief from the on-site loading request. Number 8, 182-708A2. This indicates that and I'm supposed to be able to turn my truck around on the site. I can't turn a truck around on the site. I mean, my site's 19.65 feet wide. Finally, I have two more dimensional variances. I did this in the order they were presented by the township, or I would have clustered them differently. Number 9, 187-712. I think it's sort of redundant because that says I'm not allowed to have any building imposing into a setback. Well, I think I've already gone through the setback discussions. It's almost a repeat of the same thing. Obviously, if I'm not honoring my side yard setback, I'm also not honoring having a building imposed in a setback. So it seems like a redundant part of the code, but we're asking relief from it. And finally, drum roll, number 10. This is an interesting one, and applicants 13 is going to help us through this one. Applicants 13 talks about front yard setbacks, which was a lot of fun to put together. First picture in applicants 13 shows the properties immediately to my east, and obviously there are no front yard setbacks. The next picture also shows that, but the tabular value, the third exhibit in that applicants 13A, 13C, talks about the front yard setbacks. And the ordinance says I have to match the average front yard setbacks for 300 feet both directions of my site. That's a football field. So I went ahead and I analyzed what we really had. I didn't go beyond the street on the left because it turns residential, but I went all the way down to 300 feet the other way. And if you look at the data, the average setback to the west is 0 feet. The average setback of the properties to my east are 16 foot 6 inches. So if I merge the 0 on the west and the 16.6 on the east, I have an average front yard setback on the street of 8 foot 3 inches, where, by the way, 20 foot's required by code. And I'm suggesting that I am not really inconsistent with that average setback. I'm 5 feet back. I'm in the right vicinity. So whether I need relief or not, I'm not sure, but that's the testimony supporting the position of the case.
Mr. Lynn, are you familiar with the standards for the granting of variances under the Haverford Township zoning ordinance as well as the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code?
I am indeed, and they would be under Haverford Town's 162-10041, and that's letters A through E, which mirrors the MPC language in Pennsylvania for hardships.
So there were 5 standards there, is that correct?
Indeed.
Can you basically go through the standards and tell the board how you believe that we meet those standards?
And I promise you, I will not insult you by reading these. But very quickly, in summary, letter A discusses that there are unique physical circumstances or conditions, including narrowness or shallowness of the lot size. Well, we certainly have that. I think my testimony is supported. I certainly have lots that are narrower or shallower or smaller than the requisite size. Letter B discusses that there's no possibility that property can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the chapter. And I believe I said that the maximum area I could build on this site, matching coverage and everything, is less than 600 square feet. So I certainly don't have the ability to put anything on the site if I don't get relief.
And that standard also talks about a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, it can't be applicant imposed. The unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. We did not create these lots. In fact, interestingly enough, Dave Damon was kind enough to dig out a plan from 1925 showing the subdivision, that's applicants 14, showing the subdivision of this section here, and that's a 99-year-old plan. So these lots have been around for a long, long time coming down from the street. So that's interesting to see something close to 100 years old where it was subdivided. His office actually did it 100 years ago. The number 4, letter D, if authorized, it will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. I think it's going to improve the essential character. If that's altering, yes, but it's not going to negatively alter the essential character. There's been a tavern restaurant at this location since 1959. We're certainly doing something, and if you look at where it's evolved due to current ownership, it certainly has improved dramatically over when they purchased it. And finally, letter E, it will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief. I think it does. I don't think I've asked for anything to develop this lot, this small lot. I don't think I can ask for anything less than what I've asked for. So I think I've matched the burden of proof of the hardship ordinance.
And my question was going to be, in your expert opinion, do you believe that this application meets the 5 standards?
I do. I do.
Anything else you wish to add at this point?
Well, again, we didn't create the lot. We didn't create any of this. We didn't create the zoning district. It's a legally subdivided lot. It's 2,190 square feet. And a district designed for 6,250 square foot lots. There's no way I can develop it within the parameters of the underlying zoning. And that applies, by the way, to requests 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Certainly not an applicant-imposed hardship. I'm only asking for 1 parking space of relief when there's a tremendous amount of properties with far greater parking deficiencies than ours. And I don't know on topic 10 whether I do or don't need relief, but that was one of the average setbacks. But I'll be darned if I can figure out how you have a minimum setback and an average setback all at the same time. So I've tried to give you some analysis of what I think the average on the block is in our exhibit. It's a logical development, it's an improvement. I'm proud of what the owners have done there. They've owned it since 2011. And I think the tent made an improvement to their use of their property. And it was a great experiment. And I think a permanent building there with amenities such as accessibility and toilet rooms is going to be a further improvement to the property.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn.
Thank you.
I have no further questions, and I'm assuming the board has questions.
Yes?
Mr. Lynn, did you look at decreasing the size of the addition by 67 square feet so that you would not need to request a variance for parking?
I tried to not be greedy with my addition. What I tried to do was keep the 5 parking spaces we've survived with during the last 3 years with more seating. So I have 5 today. I kept 5. There's a certain critical mass where by the time I add a toilet room and a wait station and a ramp and, a hostess station, I don't have anything left. I've lost 4 seats already by going through the wall. So I thought this was the right size for the property. I don't think it's an overly aggressive size. I didn't attempt to remove any parking I already have not removed. So.
Okay. And you're adding an accessible ramp to the front of the building. Is there an accessible parking space in front of the building?
No, the parking would have to come from something on the street. Because if I put an accessible parking space, then I lose because the first parking space needs a transfer aisle that is wheelchair compliant, which is the size of a space 8 feet. So then I would be down 1 more space. And I think the trade-off of the parking is there. There's a path into the building from Darby Road that you can get there. So I do not have specifically an accessible space. Certainly somebody could be dropped off there, and it's somebody with a mobility impairment or a walker even could be dropped off right at the door and at least get in the building without going up the current steps that are out there.
And is the current driveway, which you would probably be using for drop-off, compliant in terms of cross slope with ADA?
Yes, it is. We're down under our 2% cross slopes and 5% running slope. Yes.
And then just a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Will the owner be coming up to testify as well?
Yep,
Okay.
next witness.
The next questions I have are for the owner.
Ed?
Yeah, the question, did you review the decision on the variance for use of the crossbar?
No. When was that decision, Ed?
I don't know, but I'm remembering completely different than what I'm hearing testimony on about regarding whether or not parking was considered when you changed the use to a more intensive use than it was pre-existing, that they talked about parking, and I'm not sure. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Well, the thing I guess I'm thinking out loud on here is they did not own the lot next door. When they bought the crossbar, there was 0 parking. So they didn't have any ownership beyond the crossbar itself. So they operated for a number of years with the restaurant with 0 parking. So this site has parking, but it's a standalone site that was added into the portfolio later, if you will. So I'm not certain because the crossbar's always been there with 0 parking. So this addition.
I don't agree with my memory on that. I'd love to see the actual decision because it was my impression that the adjoining property was also a symbiotic ownership, that they said that they were going to be able to use their other parking lot at night.
I've not seen a transcript or any testimony on that.
I would love to see that before I could really make a decision on what's been done.
Okay?
I'm looking at the renderings that were in our original packet, so it looks like the design has evolved a little bit. Is that
Designs always evolve. Hopefully it's for the better.
right?
Original had
This
a lot.
this is not necessarily the final product. This is just a conceptual rendering.
Okay.
Spoken as a lawyer only would. You know, I mean, I try to give you an artist's impression of where it is. It had a lot of glazing that was completely impractical in the original. In fact, I'm not sure how we would ever cooled it. So this is going to have a lot less glazing and a little more solid wall and solid roof. So again, that still may evolve, but they were looking for something a little more rustic, not just the same repeat black on the front. And that's our attempt to capture that request.
Some of the renderings seem to indicate like a grass buffer. Is that along the side? Is that still the case? In the 3-foot strip between the new wall and the property line?
I would like to put something there because I prefer not to have people driving into my drive-through restaurant scenario. So yeah, there'll be some type of a buffer there. You know, this driveway is not a two-way driveway. It never has been. I mean, it doesn't match the requisite 24-foot wide, but it certainly doesn't serve a lot of cars either. It's served that way for ever and ever. So I'm not changing that, but I would certainly have some kind of a buffer to keep you from driving through the building. A curb is a minimum.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my other question. So, okay, yeah, so there will be a curb then?
There will.
How is the trash handled? Will that be the same as it is today for the current restaurant?
There's currently a dumpster tucked into the back, and that's a great shot where you can actually see. That's why I said the property rises to the rear, so there's a natural place where the dumpster is rolled into the back, retaining condition of the hillside to the property to the rear. So that's not going to be changed.
And is that on the subject property where the addition is going, or is that on the existing crossbar property?
I think Mr. Cox is going to apparently testify beyond me on that, so I heard a comment.
Yeah, I'll clarify the trash. We don't
Okay.
have a dumpster.
Okay. Yeah, my other...
Good question.
And then did you explore a second floor at all?
No.
Maximize density on the site?
No, because I have no vertical access to a second floor. I mean, even though it's probably below my threshold as far as, under the IBC for access, it's an impractical scenario. There's a second floor in the existing restaurant they can discuss, but there's nothing going on with patrons on the second floor.
Is that currently used just storage or offices, or?
I'd rather defer to my next expert witness, the owner.
Yeah, my other questions will be for the owners, then. Thank you.
Robert, is there anything planned for the roof of the new structure if it's approved? Is there going to be a deck? Are we going to get a request for dining on the deck or anything like that?
No.
No. Yeah, but look at this. And he said it's not final. We don't need another lamplighter situation.
I understand that.
Yeah, I've not been asked to design anything on the roof. In fact, if you look at the rendering, it actually has a slope.
Yeah, there's a rendering in the exhibit packet that doesn't. That's why I asked, because that always creates problems with the neighbors, noise, and. But that's it. I accept your answer.
Fortunate that the design evolved to no longer reflect the possibility of a deck.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe. What you got next?
I have Greg Cox.
What up, Greg?
Is it okay if he goes over there? I'll just stay here?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go over there to the microphone.
Please raise your right hand, Greg. Please swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board tonight.
It's Gregory J. Cox, and I'm managing partner of the Crossbar.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Mr. Cox, you presently live in Wayne, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
But you grew up in Haverford Township?
Yeah, I was
Went
born
to
in
Haverford.
Haverford, lived here for 44 years.
Your relationship to the applicant is that you're the managing partner?
Yes.
Okay.
My brother.
CMC is the owner of record of the lots located at 2225 East Darby and 2223 East Darby as contained in the exhibit package, is that correct?
Yes, CMC is, yeah.
Okay. Does CMC through another entity operate the business known as the Crossbar at 2225 East Darby?
Yes, BMG Havertown is actually the operator of the Crossbar. It is a LLC, which I am the managing partner of.
Okay, and this is a bar and a restaurant, correct?
Yes, it's a bar restaurant.
And how long have you operated the Crossbar?
We started in August of 2012, and we're currently in our 13th year of operation.
Can you describe the interior of the Crossbar, especially how many patron seats are available today?
Yeah, the bar that we bought is a very small corner bar. It's got 450 square feet of patronage. And in the front, there's 2 4-top tables. And then along the bar, there's 12 seats. And then along the wall, there's 4 high-top tables that seat 16 people.
Okay.
And also in the back, there's a handicap bathroom.
And
That's the whole
in the
entire
back,
bar.
right.
Yeah.
This was a restaurant bar prior to you acquiring the property, is that correct?
Yes, Kilgallon's, like you said, since 1959.
And how long was Kilgallen's in business?
59 to a little over, I guess, 50 years. Yeah.
And did you make any significant improvements to the property at 2225 East Darby when you acquired it?
Yes, we did a lot. We actually gutted the whole building and renovated, the outside facade, and then added to the landscaping. But yeah, we did a lot of work. We added forced air, covered old radiators, and put offices upstairs. And we use the upstairs for storage. There's, we took the bedrooms and made it shelves, and we store, product up there.
Now, at some point, you erected a tent over the adjoining lot at 2223 East Darby. Can you explain that?
In obviously March 2020, COVID came, and we were shut down for 3 months. But in the summer, they said we could do outside. So fortunately, we bought the lot next door, and we did a lot of tables and awnings, and it was actually a success. And a lot of new customers came because we were one of the few places open. And when fall came around of 2020, we wanted to continue that, but it was getting cold, so we decided to buy a tent with heaters and added tables so that we could continue to do it through the fall and winter.
And this area that you put the tent over was solely used for patron dining, is that right?
Yes, it was only used for patron dining.
And approximately how many patron seats did you set up there at that time?
We had about 60.
And what we're talking about here, and this goes to what Mr. Point was talking about, you individually own the property known as 2217 East Darby, is that correct?
Yes.
And the driveway between 2217 East Darby and 2223 East Darby is the access to the parking spots?
Yes.
Okay, and there's no problem with anybody shutting off that access, is that correct at this point?
No, not at all.
If the zoning board were to grant the variance and insist that an easement be created and recorded, would you be willing to do that?
Of course, I would love to do that.
Now, going back to 2223 East Darby, are you still using that covered lot as patron space?
Yes, we are. It's been.
And has it benefited your business?
It's benefited greatly. We're basically a different place. We've doubled our sales, which was a good thing. But it's also had a lot different customers. The outside is quieter. They're tables only. There's no bars, and it's not loud. So we've had a lot of families come in, and now we have private parties once in a while. So basically, our business has been great.
And you're here tonight asking for permission for a variance to be able to enclose that area permanently where the tent is now. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it would be a much better ambiance, but it's also hard to maintain. I'll be honest, the outside it's not the most practical thing. So we're hoping to get away from that.
Now, you were present earlier tonight when Mr. Lynn gave testimony.
Yes,
And do you agree with his analysis and adopt his analysis?
I do.
If this is permitted and you do eventually enclose the lot, will you be increasing the patronage area in terms of seating in any way?
No, actually, we have 60 now. We will be going from 60 down to 42, which is 30% less.
And how about in the crossbar itself?
We would be losing for a table, which would be losing 4 seats, for the access way to the new. Yeah. Yeah, so this right here is a table inside. Horrible. Well, be gone. Our kitchen is the food when you run away.
What are your business hours?
We're open Monday to Sunday, but only open for lunch Wednesday to Sunday. So our hours are Wednesday to Sunday. We open at 11:30 and we close usually around 1 a.m. depending on the night.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we're closed at 11. We don't want to be open late, but
What are your busiest times?
by far our busiest times are Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and also Saturday and Sunday afternoons.
And are you generally full at those times?
Yes, we are.
Did you ever have any of those patrons who come to your facility complain about parking?
No, we have not.
Now, you've been in business in Haverford Town since 2012?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the available parking in the area?
Yeah, I'm familiar with any spot to park pretty much in Haverford.
And Mr. Lynn testified to applicant's exhibit A10, which talks about the off-site parking availability within the township.
Yes.
Are you responsible for helping him prepare that?
Yeah, I drove around for the past month, just looking to see what's out there and, how hard it is to get parking. And what I found is, we're very happy that Grace Chapel let us use their lot. That lot every weekend is maybe a quarter full, and anyone can park there. I did notice up the street, the Oakmont Elementary School, I think it's the township building. That lot, which is not that far, is empty every weekend, and anyone can park there. There's maybe 3 or 4 cars in there. It's right next to the Brick and Brew, so I don't know why they never utilized that lot, but that lot is empty and can be used for parking.
Other than what we're proposing here tonight, can you think of anything else that could be developed on this lot, 2223?
I can't think of anything that would make sense.
Do you believe this usage would be the highest and best use of that lot?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Do you believe if it were permitted that you would have any parking issues?
No.
And why would you say that?
If anything, it'll be less than what we have going on right now. We'll have less customers.
But have you had any parking complaints in the past?
No, we have not.
So basically, the business is just going to continue as it is today with fewer seats in an enclosed environment.
Yes.
Would this in any way alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
No, if anything, it would enhance it. I think the frontage would look much nicer.
Do you-
I know he's showing you the rendering. That's something they just put together, but that's not what exactly we're going to do. It would look a little different. But it will look very nice in the end, and it will fit in with the block, with what's going on.
Do you have any reason to believe that this development would impair the use or the value of any adjoining property?
No,
Would it be detrimental to the public?
not at all.
Now, Mr. Cox, as I advised you some time ago, that in my initial discussions with a previous zoning officer, the officer believed that if the relief were to be granted, that the township may want to have you initiate a reverse subdivision to incorporate these 2 lots into one.
Yes.
If that were a condition of the grant of variance, would you be willing to do that?
Yes, we would.
And I think we brought up the subject of the easement, if it's a requirement, that an easement be constructed between 2223 and 2217, you'd be willing to
Yes, I'd be willing to.
have that prepared and recorded.
Yes, I would like to do that.
And I know the issue came up about trash, and I'd like you to address that.
Well, yeah, we use totes, which are very effective because they're easy to clean. We don't like dumpsters, so we have totes that they wheel down the driveway to bring to the trash truck. They park out front.
And you have a
As
correct-
do 90% of our deliveries. They pull out front. Thankfully, that side of Darby isn't as crazy as the other, and they deliver during the morning and early afternoon. So they pull over, deliver right out front.
So you have
like a lot of the places on the boulevard and stuff.
You have a commercial trash disposal company who takes care of the trash?
Yes.
Okay.
All businesses have to.
I have no further questions.
Jesse, start this way.
So you said that your testimony is that there's no dumpsters, you use totes?
Yes, we use.
And the deliveries are to the front, trucks don't pull onto the property for deliveries?
The only truck that pulls in the back is we have the fryer oil, which is it looks like a dumpster. It's not that big, but it's about 6 by 2. And they have to come in, and it's not a long truck. It's, I guess it's about 15-foot truck. They suck the grease out into the truck, and they come in the morning when, there's nobody there. We're not open for business. So the truck is able to turn around, pulls in, and it can reverse in.
And you heard Mr. Kane earlier talking about a roof deck. Would you accept as a condition that there would not be a roof deck?
Yes, we have no interest in a roof deck, and I do accept that.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Good.
You said that you started this during COVID, the tent on the outside.
Yes, in the fall of 2020.
Did you have approval from the township to operate outdoor dining after that? Quit?
No, we just kept it going.
Yeah, but everybody else didn't keep it going. So it was required that, you can meet.
No, we get the outdoor, there's an outdoor dining permit,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it's like $50. Yeah, we applied for that every year and received
So you
that.
got an outdoor dining permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was just for the curb out front though.
No. So now, when you do this addition, it's more like an addition than it is a separate business. Am I understanding that correctly?
Sorry.
You couldn't operate this as a restaurant without having the crossbar attached to it.
Yeah, there'd be no chance we could do that with the kitchen being in the back.
And then when
The
you-
other building, this is more of a dining room.
Right, so you attach them together and you do join the lots together.
Reverse subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah, they agreed to that.
I'm thinking, how does that make the lot more non-compliant then? Because now you have both buildings being considered for the parking requirements.
This was a suggestion by the zoning officer when I talked with Kelly, was the zoning officer at the time. And she said that might come up as a requirement of a variance, or it might be required by the township. I don't know if it's going to be required by the township or by this board. I'm just saying if we have to do it, he's willing to do it, and whatever approvals he has to do it, he'll be happy.
Okay, but if it's done, it may require other variances, what I'm thinking.
That I do not know.
Okay, so.
I said that I do not know.
Okay, I think this through with us for a second. So I'm looking at it like this. I have an existing legal non-conforming building with a certain number of dining seats. I'm not changing that. In fact, I'm reducing those dining seats by 4. I have a new addition. You're right, Ed, it is an addition. It's not a standalone. It's going to have dining seats in it up to 40, 42. I believe you said 42.
42, yeah.
So there I am short one space. So I haven't in any way changed or exasperated the existing legal nonconformity of the 2225 because I simply don't have any parking there at all relative to the seats. In fact, I've reduced 4 seats. So I'm thinking that there's a legal nonconformity flowing through in that, whether there's a property line or not, a reverse subdivision. The concept of under the law is I haven't lost that nonconformity just because I suddenly added some more land. That would be, I'm just a poor dumb architect, I'm not an attorney.
Right.
But that would be my take on zoning law, having done this for a couple of days. That's where I would suggest we might be.
Except you can't increase a nonconformity by 50%.
But I haven't increased the nonconformity. I haven't increased the nonconformity. I haven't changed the nonconformity at all. I've kept the same ratios for the.
I got you. But yeah, I'm thinking.
I'll sit down and be quiet.
No. Good input. I'm hearing it, but I still think that we need to see a copy of the last agreement because I can't believe that we would approve an addition to a restaurant without addressing parking in that.
You mean the kitchen addition? That was
Correct.
I've just never seen it, so I'm
Okay.
at a loss.
And I've never seen it either.
Well, I think that's important. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ed, wouldn't a reverse subdivision combining the two lots prevent us from hearing?
Requirements are.
But wouldn't it prevent us from having a case in the future about a new addition, which would be on a separate lot, being unusable?
Well,
And we'd have another case if they ever sold the lot?
if you was reverse the subdivision and we have a requirement that you can't subdivide a property unless the other one's in compliance. So if you have a parking requirement, then now you have no parking. When you reverse subdivide it, I don't know that it's not going to cause us more problems.
If it were not reverse subdivided, consolidated,
I don't know the answers to these things.
we would,
I'm concerned that also that it's not.
It would,
it's
it
a
would just
symbiotic
remain as it is.
relation.
It'd be 2 separately taxed lots.
Yeah,
that
we don't
won't be,
know.
I would go for if it's approved, the condition that it be consolidated, but, and the easement for the driveway. But, all right, we could discuss it.
Yeah, you guys.
Jessica, because we're supposed to stop at 11. So, because the door's automatically locked and it's
Okay,
not.
I understand that.
So we have a few minutes before 11.
I have nothing else to ask the witness, so it's when you're done.
I have a couple questions.
Jess?
Do you have any plans to provide outdoor dining once the expansion is complete?
We do not.
Okay, and would you accept a
Outside of it.
condition that you would have no outdoor dining that would obstruct your
The only thing
remaining
I would-
5 spaces?
Would ask is the out front,
Where your benches are?
yeah, where the benches are, if we could keep.
Yeah,
that.
not that,
And
would you
the
accept?
parking lot would not be used.
Okay,
for
so you
outdoor
would not
dining at
use
all.
any of those 5
We're
spaces?
going to lose the outdoor
Okay,
fresh air. Yeah.
that's my only question.
Is that it, Jess? Okay, Jesse, you have anything else?
No other questions.
Joe?
I adopt Mr. Lynn's closing remarks as my final remarks. He stole my thunder because it's now like after 11 o'clock. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you.
I have no.
Thank you for your time tonight.
I go last for a reason. It saves me a little work answering questions.
No, it was a long night for you guys, so.
So, do you want to testify about this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'll bring you up. I'll swear you. Okay, with that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record?
Michelle Alvare, Alvare, 134 Hastings Avenue. I live 2 blocks away from this, and I think this is awesome because I've been going there with the tent since COVID, and while it's nice, it'll be even nicer to have an enclosed building year-round and be able to enjoy more of the dining. And I can say that I actually used to go there when it was Kilgallen's, and this is a humongous improvement over Kilgallen's. And understanding Mr. Kilgallen's was an old gentleman that ran the bar, but just saying they've done a wonderful job with this in the 12, 13 years they've been there. So as a neighbor, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Joe?
Last thing, I want to make sure that my exhibits are being moved into the record.
They're admitted.
But do it again.
And it's A1 through 14, right?
Correct.
Any other administrative matters? Okay, with that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on November 7th. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks for staying.
Good. He's engaged. Oh, really? Wow.